Well, our lawyers are busy drafting a letter to them, putting them on notice that they will be given a few days to change their decision. If not, we will seek a review of that decision in the High Court. And as I said, because this is such an important constitutional principle around freedom of expression, freedom of political thought and speech, that we will be prepared to take this all the way to the Constitutional Court. We had the same issue the last time, you may recall, around an SMS that was distributed.
The death toll in the George building collapse in the Western Cape has risen to 12. This after 3 more bodies were pulled out of the rubble, leaving 41 people still unaccounted for. The latest update was given at a media briefing hosted by the Western Cape Premier Alan Winde at the Joint Operations Centre at the Garden Route Municipality. District Disaster Head Gerard Otto says the identification process has been difficult and they're using DNA testing, fingerprints and photos to try and ID some of the deceased. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says the late Justice Yvonne Mokgoro served the country with distinction and absolute dedication. Mokgoro, who died yesterday, was a former Justice of the Constitutional Court. Zondo joins a chorus of mourners who have paid tribute to Mokgoro, who was part of the first 11 inaugural judges at the Court. Zondo says Mokgoro made an enormous contribution to our democracy, for which the country is truly indebted. Margaret Mutibi filed this report.
Judge Yvonne Mokgoro, who hails from Kimberley in the Northern Cape, served in the Constitutional Court for a full term of 15 years. She was the first black woman to join the highest court in the land. She died on Thursday following a car crash in April last year, which left her incapacitated. In paying tribute to her, Chief Justice Zondo says the country will never forget her contribution to our constitutional jurisprudence. Margaret Mutibi, SABC News, Kimberley.
And Australia is to hold a parliamentary inquiry into the impact of social media on society. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says social media often plays a role in domestic violence or the radicalization of young people.
I think this isn't just a matter of what government wants, it's what Australians want. And this will be an important inquiry for people and the community to engage in the debate about what is the role of social media, how do we make sure that social media's benefits continue whilst the potential for harmful impacts are minimised.
The top story at 3 o'clock, former State Security Minister Bongani Bongo and 7 accused, including 3 companies, have been acquitted by the Nelspruit Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in Mbombela, Mpumalanga. For SAFM News,
All right, then, coming up in your sports this hour, Nedbank Cup final tickets go on sale. Proteas woman coach Mourinho steps down and TM retires because of injury. I'll have more on this at 3:30.
Mama Kiti, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megalitres of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
Are you ready to take charge of your future? Looking to study at a world-class university and reach your goals without sacrificing your busy schedule? Look no further. Fuel your future with UNISA. The leading open distance e-learning university offers state-of-the-art higher education solutions that will give you the head start you deserve. Semester 2 applications for selected qualifications are now open and will close on the 10th of May 2024. Apply online now. Visit unisa.ac.za for more information. UNISA, define tomorrow.
SABC Sport is proud to bring you the best polo match on television screens. Watch the South African national polo teams take on the best from around the world. First on the annual fixture is the eagerly awaited international battle at the Nedbank International Polo on Saturday, 11 May 2024 from 1:30 p.m. Watch live on SABC Sport as Argentina, the best of the Americas, face off with South Africa, the best of Africa. Catch the build-up, the international match, and the prize-giving ceremony on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's a Friday afternoon. It's 19 days to the elections, 2024 elections, and a warm welcome to you and thank you for staying connected to the National Pulse here on SAFM. Let me tell you about this firstly. So, a while back I returned from an overseas trip, and you know when you travel often at different airports, you always get one thing in common: these grumpy customs officials around the world who, even when you try and be chirpy with them, they are not interested. They've been told and taught not to smile, no emotion. So you get used to that, like even for a whole month or wherever you're traveling, right? And then you come back to South Africa, and I'm talking about the Tambo Airport in Johannesburg, and within a minute or two, and you're at customs, and there's a smile, and then you chirp something, you say something, you get chatty, and they chat back to you. And it's not because you're South African. They just chat because they were doing it with whoever else was doing the same thing. And I told myself already, like, that is a uniquely South African thing. Honestly, we take that for granted. But that's really, really cool. It's really special. I won't say it doesn't ever happen in other countries, but it does not happen to the level that you may think, okay? And, I mean, in a similar way, when you're a tourist as well, and you ask for directions in other countries, not from like touristy areas, but when you're just asking a person, right, they'd often just point out, like, yeah, go there, right? And I mean, it's happened to me again at an airport where, and I'm talking Joburg, when I got to the airport one day, I was completely confused about the exit. I don't know why, okay? But when I asked the guy for directions just to get how to get out, he didn't just like say, go there. He like, no, come over, I'll show you, okay? And he literally walked me through to the area where I needed to be. And I'm saying again, really, I think that is quite remarkable. Don't take it for granted. And it got me thinking, because this is really my point, okay? What do South Africans do that is brilliant? What do we do brilliantly? What do we do that is so inspirational? But we take it for granted. But when you travel, you realize people in other countries do not do that. So I'm not talking about winning the World Cup and producing world-class entertainers and that sort of thing. No, I'm talking about mannerisms, okay? I know we chatted about mannerisms about Japanese the other time. That's a different conversation. This is about just general mannerisms that South Africans have. And for me, it's the general friendliness, the ability of talking to strangers, people saying, "Heita," and you just say something, even at the cash checkout. They will talk to you. And I think the willingness to help. South Africans are also very adaptable. And I think they're resolute, especially when they don't even know what to do next. Okay. So my point about all of that is, let's be aware of that, because we have that within us. And there could be many other examples of just that, right? South Africans, in whichever way, we do make a plan. South Africans mark a plan. We make a plan. I'm Ashraf Garda, and, well, yeah. That's my point. Now, my question to you is, what's your point?
My name is Zaki Ahmed, and I am standing as an independent candidate in the 2024 elections. Justice, equality, dignity and freedom has always been a part of my political life. I've helped build working class movements such as the Treatment Action Campaign, the National Coalition for Gay and Lesbian Equality, the Social Justice Coalition in Informal Settlements, and Unite Behind for a quality rail system. I will continue this struggle as an independent member of Parliament with your voice and also with any MP of integrity. Vote for me, Zaki Ahmad, on the regional ballot in the Western Cape.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So yes, you tell me. Let's get your thoughts right away in terms of examples you have of attitudes and mannerisms of South Africans that we're really, really good at. And perhaps share some examples of it. I'd love to know. Now, you can do that via WhatsApp, voice notes, or text it. You can do that right away. 0614 104 107. And you can call into 086 000 2032. What is it about South Africans that we are truly brilliant at, but in fact we take it for granted? But I'm not talking about achievements. I'm talking of day-to-day things like the overall friendliness, particularly to strangers. I like that. You can, by the way, tweet us. You know that on the X platform, SAFM Radio. You can tag me as well, Ashraf Garda. Do tag, and also you'll find us on Facebook too, right? And use that hashtag, the National Pulse. Many people doing that, and it's just so great that you so connected in literally and figuratively to the concept of the National Pulse. Well, lots happening today. It's a big, big news day, I think, on many fronts. First up, let's talk about the goings-on at the Constitutional Court. You may have heard there's been an application. Well, you certainly know that the IEC, the Electoral Commission having allowed the MK Party to use the image of former President Jacob Zuma on the MK Party ballot sheet, the IEC then has taken that to the Constitutional Court. And today, the defense from the Zuma side, or the MK party position, has actually put forward a position that, in fact, some of the sitting judges should not be allowed to be there. And some developments have occurred around that. So let's talk about that first up with Dr. Llewellyn Kerr-Lewis, who's a senior lecturer in criminal and procedural law at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Kerr-Lewis, you're live on the National Pulse. Hi.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody listening.
Good afternoon. Right, so I did a quick intro. You may want to tell us more.
Yes. Well, remember there are two matters before the Concord today, there was actually three matters. Yeah. We know the one matter was that the three political parties' application to be eligible to be on the voters' roll have been dismissed. So that one is disposed of early morning. And then there was the MK matter involving former President Zuma, as well as a simultaneous application for so-called recusal of 6 of the judges.
Yeah.
Now, as we sit here about an hour or two ago, the last mentioned application for recusal was dismissed by the Concord, meaning that the Concord now has to attend to the main application, and that is the one where the IEC initially disqualified Zuma's eligibility to stand for a member of parliament. That was overturned by the full court of the electoral court by means of a majority judgment. And now the IEC obviously took that matter on appeal to the Concord regarding the validity of Zuma's election candidacy. That is basically, in short, where we stand currently.
Okay, so that last part is the one that's ongoing right now. Okay, maybe let's just stay with that for the moment. In terms of deliberations, will that continue just for today, or will it continue next week?
Well, that depends on obviously on the judge and on the parties in front of the court. Nkobe is the main counsel for the IEC, and he was still busy arguing a couple of minutes ago. So the applicant's part or side of the story is not being fully attended to yet. And that means that obviously Dali Mpofu must still answer to that one, and then there will be replication by the IEC's counsel. So I do foresee that unless they sit after hours today, we might run over into next week.
Okay, and yet, I mean, the sense there's an absolute urgency around that issue, right?
Yeah, well, there are two things there as well. As you can imagine, it is urgent because next week, this time, more or less, we are already into the voting process with those eligible to be considered for special votes already busy with casting their votes, and there are over 1 million voters in that regard. So the sooner we get clarity and finality in the matter, the better. Now, two things can happen. One is the ConCourt can consider this issue so urgent that they dispose of the matter and give a judgment soon after deliberations have been completed, and maybe decide to hold over their reasons to a later date to be determined. They do not have to give reasons for the judgment immediately, and that can dispose of the matter of urgency within a couple of days, even before we get to the elections. Or, in the alternative, they can say, listen, no, we want to deliberate on the matter must be postponed for a week, a month, 3 months, for us to properly consider a decent judgment. We will hand down a written judgment in due course, wait and see. In that instance, we are running over and above the election date of the 29th of May. So there's a couple of scenarios that can play out here.
Yeah, and that initial point in terms of from the Jacob Zuma side, the application to have the 6 judges recused. Now that I think you said was turned down, right?
Yeah, but that was an interesting one. Look, make no mistake, there was definitely merits in that application. Fortunately for maybe the court, for the country, and maybe for going forward with the matter, the application was dismissed. But just a bit of background on that issue. You must remember that 6 of the current judges that is presiding on this bench, let's exclude Zondo for 1 second, because he was also the leader of the Commission of Inquiry. So that leaves us with 5 judges. So 5 or 6 judges was in accordance to the version of Jacob Zuma and his legal team, tainted with bias, seeing that they have previously, in 2021, when he was found guilty of contempt of court, also presiding on that bench, that ruled that he must be incarcerated for 15 months sentence for contempt of court. Now, what he says is, listen, ultimately, you must pronounce, obviously, law and justice without fear, favor, and prejudice. And the fact that you know me, that you've already pronounced certain untoward judgments and unfavorable verdicts against me, and even attacked my credibility previously, means that you're already tainted in your minds even before you've listened to my application. So therefore, recuse yourself because you're not objective enough. That was the argument in short. Now, this is not unreasonable application. We see it on a daily basis before our courts of law. And one would expect that judges, where they feel that they are tainted, that they will voluntarily recuse themselves. But it happens sometimes that you have to go the formal process, bring the application, and then there's a discretionary function on the presiding judges to decide whether the issues are so closely related that they cannot apply their mind independently on the new issue at hand. And obviously, in this instance, they decided they can do so, and therefore they rejected the application of Zuma.
All right.
Now, the test is obviously a reasonable apprehension of bias, and there are many case law. There was the Sarfu matter. You remember in the days of former President Mandela, when he was taken to court by Sarfu. That was the first, let's call it then, locus classicus, if you like, typical court case where the courts pronounce how these type of applications should be attended to.
Okay. All right. I think that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Lots to pick up from there, and certainly developing stories around the ongoing issue about whether Jacob Zuma and his image should be on the MK ballot sheet as per their request, and certainly the IEC does not agree. Thank you for your time, Dr. Llewellyn Lewis, Senior Lecturer in Criminal and Procedural Law at the University of Pretoria. We will chat next up to a Christian Reverend Munter Isaac, who's a Palestinian Christian pastor, theologian. He's in South Africa. We'll talk to him in a moment.
Hey, you know what, South Africa? We're just not talking about enough.
Excuse me?
Use it liberally. Use it early. Use it with your folks.
Hey, careful, young lady.
Yes, it'll be awkward at first, but not quite as awkward as your tidy-whitey wearing father-in-law spending his golden years on your couch. Wouldn't you agree? Finances is not a dirty word. Let's start talking about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, coming up shortly, Justice Zak Yaqub will pay tribute to the life of the late Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, so look out for that. But right now we have with us a guest from Palestine, Reverend Munter Isaac, who's a Palestinian Christian pastor, theologian. He's in South Africa. Welcome to the National Pulse. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Now, many people may be aware that you are the same religious leader who spoke in Bethlehem on Christmas Day and delivered a talk. And the very first words, I think, are Christ under the rubble. We are angry. We are broken. This would have been a time of joy. Instead, we are mourning. And you said so much more. Why are you in South Africa?
So I am in South Africa first to visit some of our friends and churches, but most importantly to take part in a conference that was launched today in Johannesburg, a global anti-apartheid conference led by South African friends and supporters to mobilize grassroots movements all over the world to end apartheid in Palestine, just as there was apartheid in South Africa many years ago. So we're here with a delegation of several Palestinians and Palestinian Christians. We came a week in advance. As I said, we visited churches, mosques, friends from different places, universities, and now we're in Johannesburg to address the conference.
And I mean, ultimately, to what end? I mean, I understand what anti-apartheid is, and I understand the conference talks about the relaunch of the anti-apartheid movement, but specific reference now to the goings-on in Israel, Palestine, right? But to what end ultimately would this launch of this conference serve?
I think what we hope to achieve is for the world to stop relating to Israel as a normal state, because Israel is committing the crime of apartheid. And as such, this determines how countries, academic institutions, trade unions, and so on deal with the state of Israel. We truly believe that only with a global movement as such that we will get freedom in Palestine. Right now, you look around the world and there is a great momentum. Sadly, it's a result of a genocide that we continue to advocate and pray that it ends at any time soon. But you look at the streets all over the world and then the universities in the United States, and you realize, I think people have reached to a point, the world has reached to a point in which we say enough of this. And with the launch of this movement and mobilizing different grassroots movements around the world, I work with faith leaders, of course, but we want it to be not just faith leaders, but civil society leaders and so on. We hope to mobilize momentum around this movement.
Yeah. Now, you speak about the word genocide. We know that South Africa, our country, the government has taken Israel to the ICJ on the issue of genocide, and that is an ongoing case. We know that. But why do you, as a Palestinian living in that region, why do you describe what has happened as genocide? Give us the story.
Well, we've been calling it a genocide from the very beginning because we knew what Israel was about to do. In fact, Israel told the world what they are going to do. This is a vengeance campaign, and everything is a target, and everybody is a target. You look at the amount of people killed in such a short time, 7 months, and we're talking about those who are counted 35,000, including around 14,000 children. So how is that a war on Hamas or a war of self-defense? You look at the destruction of the healthcare sector. You look at the destruction of all 12 universities. Again, this is clearly meant to end civilization in Gaza. This is clearly meant to make sure that Gaza, as we know it, will never return to its situation. The entire infrastructure of the Gaza Strip was destroyed. But of course, the most precious thing that was lost is the human lives. And with an assault beginning to take place right now in Rafah, we're fearful that it will even get worse. So the Israeli leaders told us what they were about to do. There was no hidden intentions, as if they said we will destroy Gaza. They said this is a vengeance campaign. And we saw this coming as Palestinians. That's why we've been shouting out, this is a genocide. This is not a limited military campaign that targets certain militants. We saw this coming. And sadly, not many are listening.
With hindsight, and we know, we don't have time to talk about 1917 and what happened from the Balfour Declaration, right? But with hindsight, in terms of October 7th, do you think tactically, from the Hamas point of view, on the one hand, catching the Israelis unawares has come at the cost of massive human lives, because it's given the Israelis the opportunity to respond in the way they've done, although it is completely disproportionate, clearly?
At the end of the day, you cannot expect to besiege 2 million people in such a brutal way for 16 years and expect nothing. So sadly, we saw this coming, and sadly, we warned about this. And even when the people of Gaza tried the nonviolent route, the marches of freedom, no one listened to that. So what do you expect will happen after all these years of siege, a siege that was so dehumanizing, it even limited or calculated the number of calories that entered the Gaza Strip.
All right. Lastly, you're here as part of an international mobilization, and we know that certainly many of the countries in Western Europe and the USA clearly very much offside regarding the Palestinian cause. I mean, you've spoken about it extensively yourself, right? How solid, how big is the movement for the rights of the Palestinians being played out outside of the powers, the existing powers that we know them? You've got about a minute to answer that.
I think there is a big gap today between the streets and the leaders, between faith leaders and the faithful themselves. And this is why this is the time in which we're asking those grassroots movements and the thousands upon thousands who are demonstrating to put pressure on their leaders, whether political leaders or faith leaders, so that our support and passion and eagerness to see justice for Palestinians translates into action.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you for your time, and I think certainly many people in South Africa are very supportive of the position taken by the South African government with regards to Gaza, purely on the basis of solidarity, which is something that South Africa itself has certainly thrived on for a long, long time. Reverend Munter Isaac, a Palestinian Christian pastor and theologian in South Africa, as part of now the launch of the International Anti-Apartheid Movement. Thank you for your time. Let's get to the news headlines now with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has vowed to step up efforts to deal with criminality in the country. Former State Security Minister Bongani Bongo and 7 accused, including 3 companies, have been acquitted by the Nelspruit Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in Mbombela, Mpumalanga. And the Pope has urged governments to bring in family-friendly measures to encourage people to have more children. I'll be back with all the details at 4 o'clock.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Lindborough Park has a stationary truck reported near Marlborough Drive. The R24 eastbound in Kempton Park has a crash after Barbara Road exit. Winnie Mandela Drive in Four Ways is slow moving at Leslie Avenue. In Pretoria, the N1 northbound has a stationary vehicle before Garsfontein Road exit, and Sefako Mahato Drive eastbound has a crash reported at Aldo Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound is queuing through Spaghetti Junction towards Westwood Mall. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after the M41 Gateway exit. The N3 outbound is queuing towards the N2 north off-ramp at Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the R300 northbound queuing on the ramp to the N1 outbound. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Cromboom Road. The M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive, and Chapman's Peak Drive is closed due to high winds. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, that football season doesn't stop. Nedbank Cup.
It doesn't stop and it continues week by week. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start things off with football. Tickets for the hugely anticipated Nedbank Cup final between Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates at Bombela Stadium in Mpumalanga are on sale at a cost of R100. The Premier Soccer League also announced that after a comprehensive safety and security risk assessment to ensure convenient travel arrangements for spectators, the match on the 1st of June will kick off at 3 p.m. In cricket, Proteas women head coach Hilton Moring will step down at the end of the 2023-24 season. Moring was at the helm for 11 years, taking charge of 279 matches across all three formats, and under his guidance, the Proteas women won 84 out of 149 one-day international matches, and then in the T20 internationals, the team secured 60 victories out of 127 encounters, with one draw and 2 losses in Test cricket. And assistant coach Dylan Dupree will take over the reins in the interim. In tennis, former US Open champion Dominic Thiem says that he will retire later this year because of a wrist injury which derailed his career. The 30-year-old reached 4 Grand Slam finals before the wrist problem forced him off the ATP Tour. And Thiem says that he hopes to finish his career at a home event in Vienna in October. Ending things off with women in sports today, the spotlight is on Awande Malenga. She's an SA squash champion and she just secured a sports scholarship in the US, all thanks to the sport that she's playing, and she joins us online this afternoon. Awande, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. First and foremost, a big congratulations on your scholarship.
Hi, thanks for having me on, and thank you about the congratulations. Yeah, it's been quite an exciting year, and I look forward to what happens in the future.
I can imagine. Please tell us a bit more about how you got the scholarship and which institution is it?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research on the type of colleges that I'd love to go and study at, and I just kind of found the contact details of all the coaches, and I just emailed them. And I got introduced to a couple because I also went to the British Junior Open a year back, as well as the US Junior Open. So I was familiarized with all the colleges in the US. So I emailed them, and then they felt interested with my game. And then it was more of a kind of communication and seeing how things can be for me and what college is the right fit.
Nice. So you took things or matters into your own hands. And I mean, it's rare where you could hear a young girl saying that I want to play squash. Am I right that you're taking this as a career for yourself? And it being considered a small sport, how have you managed to fund yourself until you got to the stage?
My dad and my mom. Mostly my parents have helped me. And literally they've been my sponsors throughout my 12-year career. So it's been quite a tough journey because, squash is quite an expensive sport to play. I've been assisted by my sponsors, Technifiber, who have assisted with equipment, glasses and all that type of stuff to play. And then my Dr. Nicole Lowe, it's my chiropractor, which is kind of aligning my whole body. as well as Salming used to be a sponsor of mine who have helped me with shoes for quite a bit. So I'm very thankful for the people who have helped me throughout my whole career and have allowed me to be able to go play overseas and get more experience for my squash to improve. So there's a lot of individuals that have set foot into helping me kind of improve in my squash.
Nice. Did you tell us the name of the institution you're going to go to?
Yeah, so it'll be Drexel in Philadelphia.
Nice. It's a great one. But before I let you go, I'm sure there's parents listening or young girls that are listening and asking themselves, where do you even start playing squash? Because not all schools offer squash as a sport.
Yeah, so I think it's to find your nearest squash court to first start off with. And then get a few equipment that you can use. Get on the court and just hit a bit. If there's people around, ask around and ask if they can just teach them a few things. And, do your own research in terms of how you can play and getting coaches to assist you in the game. And then, you can also follow me because I'm also coaching currently. So
nice.
I'm actually a certified level 1 coach as well. So if anybody needs help, you can shoot me a message on Instagram.
Well, there you have it. She's also a coach and only 18 years old. Awande, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon and wishing you nothing but the best when you go to the US.
And all I can tell you about squash, is there used to be 16 squash courts at the Hillbrow Squash Courts in Pretoria Street a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I played there when I was a lightie, so I know about the game.
Nice. Well, that's it. It's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Dumin Khabele.
Durban is yet again ready to welcome thousands of delegates and buyers who will be attending the Africa Travel Indaba at the Durban ICC from 13th to 16th May. The Indaba, that attracts delegates from across the globe, is the continent's leading travel showpiece. Hosting events of this magnitude continues to position Durban as a business and holiday destination of choice. Durban Tourism, together with community tourism organizations and local businesses, are eager to showcase that indeed Durban has more to offer. Durban is on the move. Join us at stand DEC 1G50. Durban is Africa's leading festival and event destination according to the World Travel Awards 2023.
City Lads ladies can't wait to get out of the bottom half, and they understand that victory will elevate them from their current position. However, JVW ladies want a win to secure a better position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game, City Lads Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC, on Sunday 12 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hey, you know what, South Africa? We're just not talking about enough.
Excuse me?
Use it liberally. Use it early. Use it with your folks.
Hey, careful, young lady.
Yes, it'll be awkward at first, but not quite as awkward as your tidy-whitey wearing father-in-law spending his golden years on your couch. Wouldn't you agree? Finances is not a dirty word. Let's start talking about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
Right, Frank Chikane was detained, tortured and poisoned by the apartheid government, but he never stopped fighting for freedom. In 1994, he flew in a helicopter over the endless lines of South Africans voting for the very first time and said afterwards that what he saw was unimaginable. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Chikane's struggle by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. Hashtag Remember Me.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
We'll chat to Advocate Zach Yaqub shortly, but just some comments about what I said earlier. What do South Africans do that are just so uniquely special? I don't mean achievements. I mean just in terms of day-to-day life. And there's someone saying, I just want to say every morning I do walking, every person I see must greet me. Thank you. Well, there you are. That's one. There's a couple more about the airport that I commented on.
Hi, Ashraf. A very good afternoon and happy Friday. I would like to concur with your statement, Ashraf, talking about friendly people at the airport in SA. I've never traveled out of SA, but my first time flying, coming back from Cape Town to Joburg, I remember my friend and I didn't know where to catch our flight. And then we asked one security guard. And you know what? He walked with us and then he showed us where to catch our flight. That guy was friendly. So I am concurring with your statement that, you know what? South Africans are friendly. I support that. P.K. in City Deep.
Well, there we are. Sharp. Absolutely. Let's not take that friendliness for granted. It's something we need to talk a lot more about, I think. It reflects the national pulse. Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. Yeah, you're quite right. South Africans are so warm when it comes to that. I remember I went to India, arriving there, only to find that the security are the soldiers on the airport. I was so scared, and they don't know English. I didn't know that they don't know English. We were just told, go, straight. I was so scared, confused. I even lost my ID. Don't be honest speaking. Thank you.
Well, there we are. I don't know if they do. I think they do understand English. Maybe that's the plan. Because I know I went to India a year ago. They didn't want to engage at the airport. They're like, no talking, not much. Just you can say what you want. Nothing. In fact, there's another call that I've got on a similar issue, just about, I think, appreciating South Africans' overall friendliness, especially in dealing with strangers. I don't mean friendliness with chummies, friendliness among strangers. It's a pretty special quality that we have as a people. Julian is here. In fact, we get a Julian in just a moment. Let's just get to some other WhatsApps that we've had. So here's the issue of Jacob Zuma.
Ashraf, that Jacob Zuma requested the judge to recuse themselves because they once judged him. It's really upset, and it doesn't have merit, I'm telling you. Because it means once you appear before this magistrate for a different case, in your life ever, you will never appear before this magistrate or this other judge. That will bring the court into disrepute. Because once you judge against me, I will never want to appear before you for any other matter. Are we going to have judge for everyone else and every individual? Never. That's absurd, and it should not be allowed. And I accept that justice has prevailed. Otherwise, as you know, him is just a delay tactic because he doesn't want to appear in court. And he thought this will delay because if 8 judges are not available for his case, then it means it will not be adjudicated.
Okay, well, there we are. You've said it. Well, I mean, that's exactly why they've ruled against that application. So you're spot on. Otherwise, if you've ruled on one person once, that's it. Never the twain shall meet. That can't happen. That's not possible because effectively what it suggests that the judges are partisan. They will always be partisan. Whereas all they do is they have to deliver a ruling. That's their job. Based upon the evidence that's put before them, they have to make a case ruling on a case-by-case basis, unemotionally, and that's what they do. We have a call from Julian in Bloom, right? Hi, Julian.
Hi, Ashraf. It's my first time calling, and I'm great to speak to you.
Thank you. I'm glad that you called in. Right, you're live on the National Pulse. What do you want to say?
Okay, one thing I experienced in SA, I'm now South African. The friendliness in South Africa is just great. You walk around the streets on SA, you get to meet random people and you greet them, they greet you back. Once upon a time, I went back home with that mentality. I'm greeting people and they're looking at me as like, I know you from somewhere. That's something that South Africans shouldn't take for granted.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you've identified it because, I mean, that's exactly my point. I think we take it for granted. Go and try that in many other countries with strangers and see how many people respond to you. And you've just given the example, right?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Nice call. Really appreciate you. And I hope you love this country and stay here a long time.
As long as the friendliness continues.
Well, there we are. Julian, that's the challenge for all of us. Thank you. Julian in Bloemfontein. Right, if there's further comments about the uniqueness of South Africans that makes us pretty special when compared to other countries. I'm not talking about achievements. So someone said, what about the Rugby World Cup? No, we're not discussing that. We're talking about just characteristics, personality on a one-on-one basis, particularly when encountering people, okay? We will talk about the Labour Party. You may be aware of one of three parties now, understand, may not be able to contest or will not contest the 2024 election in the way they saw it. We'll talk about that after this.
Hi guys, your favorite mom vlogger here, talking all things family entertainment with Deal or No Deal now on SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. Umalume is trying to make it onto the show and have his life changed quick. Amanda Malume. Mama and I are the number one Mubango fans at 9 p.m. all week because the storylines stay hot. And my two little people can't wait for May when Raid the Cage kicks off with SABC2. See La Familia, keeping those family bonds strong. Until next time.
Hello, Your Choice Hotline.
Hi, I need you to help me make a choice.
Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on a new Ford Ranger, Ford Puma, Ford Everest, and the Ford Tornado bus. There's a flexible deal for every budget at your nearest Ford dealership today. Limited time offer. Your Ford, your choice. T&Cs apply.
Yo, I want to talk to this girl, but I'm shy, bro. Come on, go talk to her, bro. It's a masquerade party. Plus, you know the ladies love a man with a bit of mystery. Don't worry, we got you. Hey, girl.
I just wanna know who's behind that mess. From the moment I saw you, you stole my heart. Can I please get your number, babe? And I'll take your word. I promise to love you forever, and this I vow. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I'll show you my face if you show me yours.
Let's face it, when you channel your inner superstar, every moment turns into a musical. Catch The Masked Singer SA, Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and see who's hiding behind the mask. Channel a better you with S3. S3, open up.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
There's another comment. The friendliest guys and girls are at the filling stations. Fuel attendants are the most helpful. Absolutely agree with you on that one. Keep them coming. I want to know what are the unique qualities that we have as a people. Let's talk now about the future of the Labour Party, because Joseph Matunjwa is with us, Labour Party's interim executive member. You may have heard earlier on the issue on the Concord judgment that effectively prevents the Labour Party, amongst two other parties, from contesting the upcoming election. Joseph Matunjwa, I appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you and to your listeners.
All right, I would suggest that you're pretty disappointed.
Yeah, it goes without saying. Of course, we are really disappointed with the outcome today. Not only for the Labour Party, but our supporters, and those that wanted to associate themselves with the Labour Party, and also for the Democrats.
Yeah, carry on.
No, I was saying not only us and our supporters, but as the Democrats as a whole.
Mm. Yeah. How, going into today's judgment, we're talking of the Concord, so we're talking of the Apex Court. You knew it was this or bust, right? Were you at all confident? Did anything indicate to you from your legal team that suggests that you actually have a case? Because, I understand there were technicalities in terms of your submissions, right?
We were confident because, we are listening to them. Our contention, our confusion is how can the direct access to violation of a human right. So, but we have a full judgment. If we want right, those the judgment will understand where they are coming from.
Now that, what has happened has now happened, you don't have recourse for this election, right? That's it.
Yeah, indeed. The constitutional, it's the last arbiter in these matters. But however, if we want to stretch it, we can go to the United Nations High Commission of Human Rights and explore our options. Because I think it's high time the IEC in South Africa has been exposed of some shortcomings, of which such things have to be addressed not because we are not a part of the ballot, but we've seen it from the day one when we were approaching all this malfunctioning that they don't want to consider, but in their papers they agree that there was a malfunctioning in their system. And then our rights should be trampled by their malfunctioning system that has never been tested anywhere, that was just only designed for the new parties.
But you say they've been exposed. You said the IEC has been exposed by shortcomings. I mean, whatever the shortcomings, what are they? But clearly the Concord has ruled otherwise. In terms of putting their minds to it, the leading judges of the country have come up with a ruling that says that they're fine with the IEC's position.
Yeah, if you were following the case, one of the justices raised the issue of finance. I was so disappointed. I mean, how do you draw a contrast with the issue of finance on issues of human rights?
Okay, you're saying that you may consider, did you say United Nations Court for Refugees? Is that right?
Not for refugees.
Just repeat, what did you say? To take it to where?
No, I was saying, you said, what other avenues
yes,
we have?
Right.
Then I said, we are now talking to our lawyers to consider approaching the United Nations High Commissioner.
High Commissioner. Okay, got that. Sorry, yeah, got that.
The options.
Right. Is that a serious option for you?
Hello?
Is that a serious option for you?
No, I mean, yeah, it's what we are discussing as the Labour Party, but we want to bounce it to our lawyers to say what we think as Labour Party. Is it possible or it's not possible?
Okay, but you wouldn't want to delay the election, would you?
Come again?
You wouldn't want to delay the election, would you?
No, the election shouldn't be delayed by Labour Party.
Yeah. Okay.
Human rights.
All right. That line just has gone wrong towards the latter part. But let's leave it at that. Joseph Matunjwa, the Labour Party's interim executive member. Thank you for that. So Labour Party effectively out of the election, may consider certain legal options, maybe, and then taking it to the United Nations, if anything, but certainly suggesting that the election itself must not be delayed. What do you make of that? What do you make of the position now, the issue around Jacob Zuma? That is ongoing right now as we're talking. But regarding the position that the MK party put forward, that the judges who acted the previous times shouldn't even be there, that's been thrown out, you know that. But what do you make of that? What do you make of the three parties who are not now part of the overall election coming up, right? If you have any opinions on that, I certainly want to know. Basically, get it off your chest. You tell me what's your point on this issue. To call in, it's 0614 104 107 on voice note or text, and then to call live, it's 086 000 2032. So basically what I'm saying, on this Friday afternoon, what is it that you'd like to get off your chest? We've got some voice notes on other related issues, and another one about Jacob Zuma.
Hello, Ashraf. I'm anonymous from George. I just want to say about Jacob Zuma, he has appeared in front of so many judges in so many different courts that I think he is in the process of running out of judges that cannot be impartial, because he's just appeared in front of most of the judges already. You know, there's only so many top-level judges in so many different courts. So I don't think that's carrying any water anymore.
Okay, point well made, running out of judges. Let's get another around the Concord decision.
Ashraf and the listeners, this is Ngabswase Tripala. I'm happy with the Concord ruling, and those guys, including Ace Makhashula's party, were just taking chances because they knew the deadline, they knew where the offices were, they had many options, and they chose to at least maybe to want and collapse the elections. Happy me, and hopefully they've learned a lesson. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if they were going to collapse the election. I think they certainly wanted to compete in the election. I mean, you know, I had Ace Makhashula a couple of weeks ago. It was very clear we're going to win the Free State. That's it. That's the plan. We're going to win the Free State. They're there to contest, not to collapse it. their point about technical issues on the final day of submissions caused a problem to them, and because they have parties with less resources, they're being prejudiced. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel any degree of sympathy for the parties? So this is not about the policies of the parties, but just the fact that, I mean, really, just away from the Concourt, I mean, they must do their job, but you do feel like I wish they did compete, because then at least I'd know how they would fare, isn't it? But, I mean, the Concourt's got to do its job. It has to follow the letter of the law, so I understand it, or the spirit of the law. Let's get Percy's thoughts in Limpopo. Hi, Percy.
No, thanks. How are you guys?
I'm good. You're alive, so go ahead.
No, so I think we should just sympathize with the parties that could not make it. It's a lesson that all parties must learn, that we should be able to respect the IEC timelines. And it's unfortunate. We should just say good luck in the next elections.
Did the outcome surprise you, or is that what you expected?
It was not. Remember that the elections are a very huge exercise. There's much that goes into the preparation by the IEC and other parties. And therefore, if such a fraction of parties that did not make it would want to really say no, it would have gone too much into the preparations of the many of the parties and the IEC in terms of the work. In fact, the stakeholders that had taken much of their time.
Well, I would think, thank you for that. I think you're right. I think the IEC are ready to print, and they obviously is waiting for the goings-on today, and whether we're going to get a response today or in the next couple of days, Monday, Tuesday. It can't delay much longer, because we are 19 days now to the 2024 election. Percy, thank you for your call. Let's keep on chatting. I love to engage with a variety of people all around the country. In fact, where are you? The other day I had a few people tweeting out to say where they are in the country with a nice picture of themselves. So if you want to show me where you are, wherever you are, I mean, we had that caller from George, which is very topical, you know that. Wherever you are, just hashtag the National Pulse. You can WhatsApp us right away to 0614 104 107. Tell us where you are, but if you want to send a picture, that's even better. But if you are using social media, the National Pulse is what you need to just use that hashtag. We will pick it up. Another comment on the airports.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Flores here from the Western Cape. Ashraf, yes, absolutely, I agree. The staff, airport staff, is way more friendlier than those who I have come across. Man, in the US, those women look like ice queens. In Schiphol, in Amsterdam, there was this buffsty girl, very chubby girl. She looked me in the eye. And those guys, man, they greet you, but there's no smile with it. And that's almost intimidating. But now, coming back to South Africa, man, that just put a smile on my dial. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Well, there you are. You certainly put a smile with me, right? And maybe you can feel that smile, if anything. Thanks for that. Thanks for that call. We'll take more calls on that. I mean, just the general. So, I mean, a range of issues. Any comments on my conversation that I had with the Palestinian Christian leader, Reverend Munter Isaac, that we had earlier on? He's here part of the launch of the anti-apartheid movement, the relaunch, that is, right, with a specific reference to Israel and Palestine. Your comments, I certainly want to hear them. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Mudupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. The top stories this hour: the IEC appeals Zuma's candidacy ruling, and Ramaphosa promises safer communities. A very good afternoon. Starting with election news, the IEC has argued that the Constitution does not make exceptions for candidates who are granted remissions of sentences. It prescribes that anyone who is convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months imprisonment without the option of a fine is ineligible to stand for public office. However, there is an appeal provision stipulating that no one may be regarded as having been sentenced until an appeal against the conviction or sentence has been determined, or until the time of appeal has expired. IEC advocate Tembeka Ngcukaitobi advanced the following argument before the Concourt, where the IEC is appealing the Electoral Court order allowing former President Jacob Zuma to contest the polls.
What we know from the text of the substantive provision, in other words, the controlling provision, is that a candidate who is convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months without the option of a fine is disqualified. There is no exception for candidates who received remissions of sentences, no exceptions for pardons. That means that the court can apply the section as it reads. The exclusion of pardons and remissions from Section 47(1)(e) is not an accident of history.
ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has vowed to step up efforts to deal with criminality in the country. Recently, the country has been rocked by a spate of contract killings, kidnappings and construction mafia sagas, compounded by accusations of some police allegedly working with the criminal networks. Residents in different Tshwane townships like Soshanguve, Mamelodi and Attridgeville have been complaining about killings in their areas. But speaking on the sidelines of his election campaign in Attridgeville, outside Pretoria, Ramaphosa says his administration is on top of the situation.
We're increasing the number of police so that there can be more visible policing around the country, and where there is visible policing, we are able to address challenges of crime. And we are also strengthening our community policing forums, and where they are active, we find that the level of criminal activity also goes down. And we are going to resolve the issue of criminality in our country, just as we are addressing the issue of load shedding, just as we are addressing the issue of our ports and harbors.
Former State Security Minister Bongani Bongo and 7 accused, including 3 companies, have been acquitted by the Nelspruit Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in Mbombela, Mpumalanga. Bongo and 17 co-accused were facing fraud, corruption and money laundering charges. They emanate from an alleged dodgy land deal amounting to over 70 million rand. The money was used to purchase land for the Human Settlements Department in Emalahleni and the Msugalegwa municipalities a decade ago. It is alleged that the accused inflated the prices of the farms which were bought by the government. However, the accused made an application to have the matter struck off the roll, citing a lack of evidence. The other remaining 9 accused will be back in court on the 28th of August for the trial's continuation. Law enforcement officials, including the SAPS and Metro Police, marched through the Pretoria CBD today to raise awareness against gender-based violence. Officials have called for the establishment of a GBV unit within the SAPS and the Metro Police. They say, as law enforcement officials, they saw a need to lead by example by standing up against the murder, rapes and abuse of women and children. The city's Grandi Tienerson says such an awareness campaign is geared towards teaching young boys that women should be treated with respect.
No difference between male and female. Well, we want to challenge the rest of the country to join hands with us so that we can have a united stance against gender violence throughout the country with all law enforcement authorities in the country.
And the Pope has urged governments to bring in family-friendly measures to encourage people to have more children. Italy's birth rate is one of the lowest in the world, falling every year for the past 15 years. Speaking at a pro-family conference in Rome, Pope Francis encouraged governments to create societies which supported childbearing.
At the institutional level, there is an urgent need for effective policies, courageous, concrete and long-term choices to sow today so that children can reap tomorrow. There is a need for greater commitment from all governments so that the younger generation are put in a position to realize their legitimate dreams.
Recapping the top story, the IEC has argued that the Constitution does not make exceptions for candidates who are granted remissions of sentences. For SAFM News,
And coming up in your sports this hour, VAR implementation in the PSL imminent and Bulls boosted by the return of Nortje and Van Staden. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenville has a stationary truck at Modderfontein Road. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported before Gilulis interchange, queuing traffic on both routes. The M1 northbound in Omonde has delays towards Xavier Street, and SKM Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria is queuing towards Mabopane Highway. In KZN, the N3 southbound has truck crash recovery just before Lions River exit. The N2 northbound queuing through Spaghetti Junction towards Westwood Mall. The N3 outbound is queuing towards the N2 North off-ramp at Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavongo Road exit. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. Victoria Road outbound is slow-moving, that's through Woodstock, and Bosmansdam Road westbound is slow-moving at the N7 Highway Bridge. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, lots of people want to comment on many of the issues, including the DA, SABC, Zuma, and the ongoing issues at the Constitutional Court. My name is Ashraf Garda. 104 to 107 is where you can catch this show, SFM nationwide. But also you are listening on streaming audio. It's an option. You can check us out. You go to the X platform, SAFM on Twitter. You'll find us. We stream live there, as well as on Facebook, as well as on YouTube, and audio wherever you are on various apps, including SABC Plus. So if by chance you are listening anywhere in the country and anywhere in the world, how about you telling me exactly where you are, so I know that's true. Right, we did say we'll chat to Justice Zak Yacoob early on. We couldn't do that at that stage, so he's coming up shortly. We'll also have a conversation around the law and the issue of the combating of hate crimes and hate speech. That I think is very significant. Then, as part of the build-up to the elections, there's a fascinating play that we're going to talk about, and basically it's a fun play, but ultimately the ultimate role of that play is really to get you to vote. So we will talk about that. Right, Justice Zak Yacoob paying tribute to the late Justice Yvonne Mokgoro right after this.
The University Registrar and Secretary to Convocation, Dr. Joel Baloy, cordially invites all members of the University of Venda Convocation to attend the AGM on Saturday, 11 May 2024 in Polokwane, Meropa Hotel at 10:30. The AGM will consider the Vice-Chancellor State of Campus report, the President of Convocation report, and amendments to the Constitution of the Convocation. To RSVP and confirm attendance, please visit www.univen.ac.za/announcements or contact Mr. Mashuda Ramarebo on 060-906-1902.
Nna lebitso la ka ke Bonolo Moagi Dibantsho Mbarek Miss B Morara Miss T Moahlo D the Bonnie B Bonbon, and we'll be now playing Kena on Mondays at 4:30. The day has changed but the time slot hasn't. So if you're interested in news that's happening with us kids and our peers around the world, don't forget to tune in. See you there.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
All right, you may have heard last night real sadness when we all heard about the passing of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, quite a legend, an absolute champion in her role, being part of the Concord, I think, for over a decade, if I recall, and also receiving the Order of the Baobab in bronze for excellent contribution to the field of law and administration of justice in the democratic South Africa. So let's do another tribute. Others have done it in their own way, but let's get the thoughts of Justice Zak Yacoob, himself a retired judge of the Constitutional Court of South Africa. Justice Yacoob, good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse.
Hello, Ashraf. Thank you very much for talking to me.
Much appreciated. Right. So you have this responsibility of sharing a few minutes of time, of your time, effectively reflecting on some of the gems that has emerged from the life and the impact of now the late Justice Yvonne Mokgoro.
Well, I must say that she was a wonderful woman. When I went to the Constitutional Court in 1998, I already admired her a great deal because at that time the thinking was that you have to be a judge in other courts before you can go to the Constitutional Court. And Judge Mokgoro was one of the two people who had not been a judge before. She was an academic, and she went to the Constitutional Court having been an academic. And there must have been a whole range of criticism of her, thinking, well, how is she going to do it? She'd not been a judge before. But she rose to the occasion completely and absolutely. And by the time I got there, she had already delivered some judgments which were absolutely mind-breaking. And when I got there, I met her, and she was very good. We had a very good relationship, and it was wonderful to be with her. And in a sense, I've always said that a good democratic lawyer is a good human being first, a democrat second, and a democratic lawyer and a democratic judge only afterwards. And he was a democratic lawyer and a democratic judge only because she was fundamentally a very good human being to start with. So there are some wonderful memories of her, and I get quite emotional when I think of her.
Yeah, it's interesting you pick up on that part about being a good human being first, because often, lawyers or judges are spoken about as people who follow the letter of the law and interpret that, but by their very nature, they need to be aloof and emotionless. And effectively, you're suggesting that there needs to be this human connection in terms of what you do and what she did.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the things she taught us, that you've got to combine the emotion and the intellect, because she understood the interaction between emotion and intellect in the making of decisions. And there were some who said the intellect was superior. There were others who said that emotion was superior. And there were some others, me also, taught by Yvonne Mokgoro, who said, you've got to combine the two and make it right. Because emotion, which enriches intellect, is good emotion. Intellect enriched by emotion is good intellect. But intellect by itself and emotion by itself doesn't really work.
Mm. You also made the point that she's been involved in some, I think mind-blowing is what you said, judgments that really were stellar in terms of their impact. I mean, you want to talk us through some of those?
I can talk you through one of them.
Yeah.
She delivered a judgment on socio-economic rights where there was an absolute interrelationship between economic rights and a whole range of other rights. And she managed to unite them both and try to work them through in a very complicated and very interesting way. And if I remember correctly, this was a case about the relationship between social pensions and socio-economic rights. And that's the judgment in which we decided that they were interrelated and they must be taken together and read together. And that is a groundbreaking judgment in making the point that you can't take laws in isolation from each other.
Mm. I suppose, to state the obvious, she had to be highly regarded in the legal fraternity, both from a pure legal point of view, but also just in terms of her interaction with her colleagues like yourself and many others.
Yeah, the interaction between colleagues was quite fascinating because the contribution you make to judgment in the Constitutional Court is not the contribution you make as an individual. You are there as a colleague. We have a collegial approach to things. We discuss things quite carefully with each other. And generally, and this is not to say terrible things about Yvonne, I want to say none of the judgments I wrote were my own. Because some people praised them and so on. But the art was to read everyone else's comments, incorporate them into yours, and the collegial court means that you take everybody very seriously, and you got to make sure that your judgments are such is that you unite all the thinking. So what appears at first blush to be a criticism of you, if you take it seriously, is one which always has resulted, in my case, in an enrichment of the judgment. And Yvonne has made many, many comments which has enriched my judgment on many, many occasions.
Inevitably, when somebody passes away, we do pass judgment on them, right, in terms of their career. How do you think that she would be viewed?
I think that she had a wonderful career. She was a simple, straightforward, down-to-earth human being. And I must say, I think of that now, it may be an inappropriate comment, but she used to call me Zaki Baby, which was quite nice.
Zaki Baby, it's got a nice ring to it, yeah. How did you respond to that?
Okay.
How did you respond to Zaki Baby?
I said, Yvonne Baby, don't go that route. But no, you are a small baby, you must know that. You mustn't think you are too clever. But that's how we used to talk to each other at court, directly and straightforwardly.
Yeah, it's a nice human touch. I mean, is there any other last anecdote you'd wish to share before we say our goodbyes?
Well, she was an amazing person. And I must say that she was... I have not seen her for a year because she was involved in this accident.
Yes.
And she was in hospital, and one didn't want to interfere in the family thing because she couldn't recognize people or talk to anybody. And she had to live like that for a whole year. And that for me was very, very serious. But as far as anecdotes are concerned, she was very clear that, sometimes I would make a straight legal point. And she would say, can you think about that again? Because it's not only lawyering. So I would think about it again and say, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Then I have to go a completely different route, and I would do it. And she would do it in a non-threatening, very good way.
Well, she had a way about herself. That's very, very clear. Justice Zach Yaqub, good of you to talk to us. Of course, we are talking at probably the saddest time when you lose, a stellar judge of South Africa and of the Constitutional Court, and certainly a colleague of yours, and clearly a champion in the legal space and a fantastic human being. So in that, of course, in the space of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. Justice Zach Yaqub, thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. There we are, Justice Zach Yaqub. And then Justice Yvonne Mokgoro passing away late yesterday, and so highly regarded. Maybe just Google, or even now, if you go on Twitter, you'll find just a whole range of tributes from so many people about her. We are going to talk about an issue around hate crime and hate speech that I would strongly suggest you pay attention to.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a spacious interior, 5 partial leather seats for your family, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
Which is the best way to reach success? Is it best to go alone so you can go fast? Or for many to go together so they can go far? What if you need to go fast and far? At RMB, we believe the best way to success doesn't make you choose when both are possible. When you need a thoughtful solution for financial complexity, there are only 3 letters you need to know. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
DA leader John Steenhuisen. What qualifies the DA to run the country?
Firstly, we do not tolerate corruption. And where the DA governs, life is better. And that is why millions of South Africans are moving to DA governments. We still have much more to do. But in the past year, the Western Cape created over 300,000 new jobs and is working every day to become load shedding free. We can bring this DA difference to the rest of South Africa, but only if you vote for the DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
I'll take some calls coming up. By the way, we have a special guest coming up as part. On a Friday we have this fireside chat, right? So our fireside chat guest is, a former SABC newsreader. I wonder who that may be in terms of whether you can guess who that's going to be. A former SABC newsreader. Looking forward to that conversation with that person. For now, my guest is Ben Wicks, who's an advocate specializing in media, constitutional and international law. Ben, appreciate your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. Now, of course, we're talking of this important issue around hate crimes and hate speech because President Ramaphosa has signed the Preventing and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill, which criminalizes hate crimes and hate speech. So what do you make of this?
Well, the need for a hate crimes law has been felt for, more than 20 years. People have been advocating for it, particularly marginalized groups like migrant groups, LGBTIQ communities, where you find hate crimes are not being dealt with severely enough by the courts. So what they wanted was a law that would make hateful motive a compulsory aggravating factor in sentencing. When you have crimes that don't affect just the particular victim or family or isolated community, but they strike at the core of an entire identity of people who have been marginalized and brutalized in South Africa. So it's long overdue in that sense. It also has a chapter on hate speech, which has been the more contentious one and which has really been the cause of the delay with this bill coming into law.
All right, so now that that bill has been signed, what are the implications in practical terms now?
So what it means is that if there is, you can be charged with assault or murder or rape, but now you would be charged if there's evidence of a prejudiced motive, whether it's on the grounds of nationality or migrant status, albinism, race, sex, or sexual orientation. Then you would be charged with essentially hate assault and hate murder. And there would be more serious sentencing consequences if you're found guilty of that offence.
So, for example, let me understand this. For example, I mean, if you kill someone, and I hope none of us ever do, absolutely not. But if you did, then you'd be charged for the crime of murder, whatever the reasons are. But if in doing so, you would say something like, you know what, you foreigners just go home, and then you kill that person, there's a double crime. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So, I mean, you have, for example, what has, rather unfortunately been termed corrective rape, where women are raped precisely because they are lesbian. That is a hate crime. It's not, committed with only a personal motive. It's also committed with this prejudicial motive. The same applies to murdering people with albinism. For superstitious reasons, the murder of foreigners because they are perceived to be stealing South African jobs, whatever the case may be.
And therefore, the plan obviously is to prevent all of this. I mean, do you think that's going to happen?
I think it will help. I think sending a deterrent message is the first step. It's a step that the law can take. Obviously, there's a lot more to be done on the enforcement side, but making it a compulsory consideration for judges and magistrates to take into account, it strengthens the hand of the prosecution to ensure that the affected communities, have a vindication and validation of what is being done to them on a wider scale, because these crimes don't happen in isolation. So the courts need to recognize that.
Now, to zero in on the issue of the elections as opposed to, general civilian disagreements that take place every single day of the week, right? The issues of hate speech, would that be a factor in this upcoming election now that we've got 19 days to go?
It can be. So hate speech is defined quite broadly, to be honest, for a criminal prohibition. Normally you would criminalize speech that incites violence against a group based on a prohibited ground of discrimination, their group identity. It's not always the case. In some countries do criminalize speech that's not actually inciting violence, but that propagates hatred against the group. This one does arguably go a little bit too far in that the margins are not very clearly drawn between what is going to be hate speech and what isn't. But you can see in electoral speech some people using homophobic speech, some people using patriarchal speech, others using xenophobic speech in election campaigns, and some of them could be sailing close to the wind.
Okay, and we're going to have to follow those stories if and when they come up. Ben Winks, advocate specializing in media, constitutional and international law. Thank you for being a guest here on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
There we are. Lots to think about there. In fact, let's get to some of the callers. If we can do that right away, there's lots of people want to talk about a range of issues. The DA advert, once again, electoral laws, whistleblowing. In fact, we have Modifa on the line. Hi, Modifa.
Yes, my brother.
Yes, how are you? Yeah.
I'm fine, yourself?
Good. You're in Mabatu, right? What do you want to say? What's your point?
On the question of hate speech, that so many people have been done as whistleblowers. It's not people who are living a lie and hating those who speak truth to power. I should think that should comprise also hate speech, double murder for those who murder, those who want to expose evil.
Well, I mean, look, let's see how it plays out in court, right? Because you never really know with these type of things. Let's see how it plays out in actual court, if and when these things happen. The fact is now the courts are even more empowered by what they have at their disposal. All right?
Okay,
thank you. Thank you so much. There's a couple of voice notes that we can pick out. Here's one about the airports, and it's not a good story.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf. I once had a very bad experience at OR back in 2018. I was traveling with my family. So my daughter, who was 7 years old at that time, she didn't know that she was supposed to stop and be searched at the security gate. And then she went past, and then this guy who was a security guard there, he just pushed her back, It was very, very bad, I wanted to take him on, and then my wife told me no, not to say anything because she didn't want me to cause a scene. So, I just cooled down. But generally, Ashraf, besides that incident, I've noticed that most of the guys at the airports are quite friendly. And I'm glad that I've never seen that guy ever again. I'm hoping that he was removed and was given another job elsewhere because really didn't belong in that post. Thank you very much, Ashraf. This is ZH in Mpangeni.
All right, nice call from Mpangeni. Thank you so much. And you're smiling, so I'm happy. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi.
Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Health Minister Joe Phaahla has heaped praise on both the George Provincial Hospital and the George Mediclinic for working together to help save the lives of the patients that were brought in from Monday's deadly building collapse. The IEC has argued that the Constitution does not make exceptions for candidates who are granted remissions of sentences, and President Volodymyr Zelensky says a fierce battle is taking place in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine after Russia launched a surprise attack. Details of these and other stories with Greg at 5.
SAFM.
guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Smith Street in Bromfontein is closed at the M1 highway. Winnie Mandela Drive southbound in four ways has a crash near Leslie Avenue, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at Linwood Road exit. In KZN, the N3 outbound is queuing towards the N2 north off-ramp at Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound is queuing through Prospection. The M4 northbound has a crash after Umhlanga Rocks Drive, and the N3 westbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck at Linfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 in Somerset West is queuing at Victoria Street. Coburg Road northbound in Tableview is queuing towards Blauberg Road, and Old Paul Road outbound is slow moving in the central Brackenfell area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, what's in the sports bag?
Well, this hour we start again with football, but this time around it's all eyes on the PSL as the SA Football Association chairperson of the National Referees, Victor Gomez, says that the implementation of the video assistant referee is possibly a few weeks or months away. Now, Gomez says that the big steps have been taken towards the VAR implementation, and that they just finalizing budgets in the next 2 weeks.
As the chairman of referees in South Africa, we had a meeting recently, and I know that it's on the way now. Now we are progressing very fast.
Are you, when it comes to the processes?
Well, now we're sitting for some budgetary costs in the next 2 weeks, and that's how far we are already. So we've gotten quite far. We've been working it for the past year already. So it's not something that you just switch on and say, yes, we're going to do it. We need to go through the processes, go through the budgets, and go through everything. So it's quite intense.
Elsewhere, Everton have withdrawn their appeal against a 2-point deduction for breaching Premier League financial rules. The Toffees were docked 2 points after an independent commission found the club had breached profit and sustainability rules by 383,000 rands for the 3-year period to 2022-23 season. Now, the appeal was due to take place next week, with a verdict announced before the final game of the season at Arsenal on the 19th of May. Then in rugby, the Bulls have been boosted by the return of captain Ruan Nortje and Marco van Staden ahead of their clash against Glasgow Warriors in Pretoria tomorrow. Van Staden, who has been sidelined with knee injury since late March, replaces Nizam Khan in the starting 15 as one of the 3 changes to the team that played the Ospreys 2 weeks ago. Nortje returns to pack down alongside Ruan Vermaak in the second row, while veteran hooker Aka van der Merwe trades places with Johan Grobler. Then in golf, Rory McIlroy says that there's no strain in his relationship with Tiger Woods, but he does admit that they have different views on the future of men's professional golf. Now, the disagreement arises from the ongoing negotiations on a possible deal between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Arabian backers of Live Golf. McIlroy, who has softened his stance on the breakaway Live Tour, revealed that he is now a member of the transaction subcommittee that is trying to do a deal. Ending things off with the business of sport, the SA Football Association has reported a financial shortfall of 107 million rand in its 2022-23 financial year, and that shortfall has increased from 73 million rand the previous year. And according to the auditors, it's a great concern, as the big question is, how will the association be able to get itself out of this financial trouble? And there's now doubts over the association's ability to continue. This is SAFA we're talking about, a big concern.
I mean, I think you need to do a whole series on SAFA.
I should.
Look, there's a problem in all our major sports administrations, right? Different types of problems, but SAFA in particular, we hosted the World Cup in 2010. Yeah. There was this massive financial windfall, and you had to filter down from the top right down to, besides the buses and all that they got, to every single community, I would think, in the country to uplift grassroots football. It hasn't quite happened.
It hasn't.
And now
quite
SAFA
happened.
Doesn't have money.
Very sad.
Something's wrong there.
Absolutely. I'll definitely do that series. I'll take you up on that series.
I mean, I could say this was an election, like a political party thing, that they have an election, but let me leave it for that now. But I mean, seriously, something needs to happen.
True, absolutely. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Tuming Kapele.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
We got a call from Uppington saying, Ashraf, I suspect that your former newsreader coming up after 5 in the fireside chat will be Nomsam Dluli from Brati. Brati, you are wrong, okay? Let's, however, get to the markets now with Paswani Mpatlele, Senior Portfolio Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Paswani, good chatting to you. Let's get to local and global markets first up.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners. Happy Friday, guys.
Thank you.
Going into the markets, we're looking at having central banks such as the likes of Canada, the Eurozone, in the UK, expected to make interest rate cuts in June compared to the US, which is expected to make it later part of the year. This has helped the dollar to ease. We've seen bond yields also easing. Alongside, we've seen volatility declining considerably. And this has allowed some positive sentiment coming in for investors to buy some risk assets as they expected the recognition of growth. But this has also comes with the implications of inflation seen through the signs of rebounding commodity prices, Ashraf, whether you look at oil, copper, platinum, palladium, iron ore, and the food soft commodities. Meanwhile, the likes of gold and silver are also rising, further supported by the geopolitical risks, especially following the developments of Mr. Netanyahu, vowing that Israel will continue to fight despite the support from the West. Meanwhile, trade tension are also showing some rising between US and China, as Biden is set to impose tariffs on China, including the EVs vehicles. And with that said, Ashraf, equities are closing the week with in the black, supported by today's gains. We see the US was up with the Dow up 0.3, S&P was up 0.1, but the Nasdaq was down 0.1, and this following the development that the consumer sentiment in May coming into the US shows that consumers are concerned about a slowing growth, increased expectations of inflation and interest rates. Meanwhile, Europe, FTSE was up 0.6, supported by that GDP number that came through that helped UK to end their recession. The DAX and CAC was up 0.4. Locally, we are up strongly, up 1.3, supported by our resource sector up 2.4, financials up 1.4, industrials up 0.5. Commodities were mixed, but mostly positive. We see the likes of gold was up 1% at $2,370 an ounce. Platinum was up 0.3 at $997 an ounce. The oil was down 0.1 at $84.10. Meanwhile, the rand, it was relatively stronger. Rand against the dollar was at 18.45. Rand against the euro 19.88. Rand against the pound 23.09.
All right, that's it. That's it for today. That's it for the weekend, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, we're going to chat, Monday. Perfect. Have a great weekend. Bye. And we'll talk soon. Thank you. There'll be another market update, by the way, coming up in another just under an hour's time. Right. In fact, let me tell you, we have this feature, the election watch, coming up every day around 10 to 4:45, and that is there to encourage you to vote. So we'll have another fascinating one this time around a play, fun play that will encourage you to actually vote in the first place. Enjoy the play, have fun around that as well. We'll hopefully take some calls as well. Now, I did make the point that we have a guest coming up after 5 as part of the feature that we call the Fireside Chat, right? In fact, Tumi is not with us. We need to bring her back here maybe. Anyway, the point is, every Friday we get someone coming in and they choose a topic that they decide we're going to talk about, and effectively they then co-host with us. So let's see if you can recognize, I did say it's a former SABC newsreader. Let's see if you can recognize the voice, and then she will also tell us what topic she's going to play.
A very good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners on the National Pulse on SAFM. My name is Nzinga Kunta. I'm a people advocate and author. I'm so looking forward to having a fireside chat with you about my journey, but I think more importantly, asking the listeners of the show to share with us really special experiences that they've had with celebrities and strangers. I think one of the most powerful thing about us as South Africans is just the kind of people we are. And I'm hoping to hear some amazing stories, amazing interactions with people both known and unknown. Chat soon.
Okay, well, there you are. Now you've got it in Zinga. In Zinga Kunta coming up after 5. And perhaps you could, in an interesting way, it relates to what I'd said earlier on. So what I'm going to suggest you do is how about sending us some voice notes like right away? You can do that now so we can play it ASAP when she gets in. Or text messages, 0614 104 107. You can do that. So 2 things, okay? And this is what she's chosen. Your interactions with strangers. What has it been like? But share the stories, okay? And then your interactions with celebrities as well. Well-known people, when you've met them, it could be at an event, it could be at a shopping mall, it could be at a school event where you finally meet them. It's like, oh, aren't you so-and-so? And the type of interventions that take place as a result of that, and conversations, okay? So that's the type of conversations we're talking about. Conversations you've had with strangers, conversations you've had with well-known people, celebrities, but well-known people. It could be, can you call a politician a celebrity? It could even be that too, isn't it? Yeah. So all those type of conversations, the plan is for you to just share those experiences and she'll share hers as well. Let's get some calls on some of the big issues that reflects the National Pulse today. Tabo in Ekurhuleni. Hi, Tabo.
Hello. Good evening, Ashraf and the SA listeners.
Almost evening, not quite, but fine. I'll get what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, Ashraf, there's a clip I once was on TikTok about when Mam Nomzamo Winnie Mandela was talking about the flag. So, Nelson, Mam Winnie Mandela, she said that during the negotiation, what was the disadvantage between us and Mandela? We told Mandela that we have over-negotiated with these people. And the needs of the black people, they are not ready to be met. We have over-negotiated. But now because every leadership of the ANC was happy and ready to raise the flag, they raised the flag. So what is it happening today? Now they are showing us an ad where they are burning the flag. Now the flag is resurrecting. So what comes to us in mind? Was the flag an idea from the ANC, or was the flag a collective effort that we need to create this rainbow nation flag that will represent each and every ethnic person in South Africa and everything? So the flag for me was a representation of restoration and healing of South Africa after the atrocities committed by the apartheid regime. So now when they come and then they burn the flag, every time DA tries to prove its point against ANC, it's like they are reminding us of back before. And they ask, we are the children of democracy. We are children of Rainbow Nation. We don't want to go back there. But every time when they put on their manifesto and whatnot, it's like they are reminding us. And the old people, they say that during the negotiations, after that, none of the white people were apologetic of all the atrocities they committed to black people. Now,
but they were. I mean, that's right. But we had the TRC, and there were many people who were apologetic. I'm not saying all, but there were many who were apologetic. That's why we have it on record. I mean, we do have that. I'm just making that point, right? Okay, but thanks for your call. I hear what you're saying. Well, listen, for the record, I've posted comments. I've even posted it on my TikTok page as well. But it's very clear. I am absolutely not for the burning of our flag to drive home any point whatsoever. Let's get that right. I hear what the DA is saying. I hear what they've tried to say. But from a personal point of view, I would never stoop to that level because for me that flag is very special. And I made a point, by the way, of when I voted for the first time in '94. I actually was lucky to be able to buy the new flag the day before. The flag only became the flag at midnight that night on the 26th, right? I was lucky to be able to buy the flag, and I must find those pictures because I was in a position, I was able to wear that flag like a cloak on the 27th of April, 1994. Lucky me. Let's get further calls. I think we've got Jonathan on the line. Right. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on this whole Zuma saga. I mean, I was reflecting about Zuma was a medical parole, and I was one of the guys that felt sorry for him, right, being in prison and even president, and even his supporters saying let the old man rest. He's been he served the country, but now I'm questioning my goodness, this was a guy that I was really supporting in terms of on his medical parole and let him rest. He's old. But now with all this, he's active again. So was he really ill? So just question mark on legitimacy for me. So that's all I want to reflect upon.
All right. And that question mark of legitimacy, how does it play out to the point where you're now questioning it?
Yeah, I'm questioning, was it all a ploy or just he was just playing us back then when he was ill? Because, I mean, I really felt hurt that the man is ill, let him rest. But now he's active in politics. He's with a new party again. So yeah, on legitimacy and also with regards to what is behind the scenes with MK. Do they have something that they're not telling us? So, yeah, it's just the whole legitimacy about this whole thing and Zuma. So let him rest. If they wanted him to rest, let him rest.
I don't think they want to rest. That's the point. Thanks for that call, Jonathan. Right. Just, by the way, I made the points about my fireside chat with Nzinga Qunta. What about sharing your experiences? You can WhatsApp, text or voice note now so that she gets in and then we can pick it up immediately. What's the nicest experience you've ever had with a celebrity or a stranger? Like really good celebrity stories. I mean, if you can share them. So TG is saying, Ashraf, apartheid, high-ranking officials were never held accountable for their actions, and the DA must be careful and not push South Africans to the limit. And these are words of caution. And Steenhuisen must be careful. That sounds like a threat. I think, it does sound like a threat. Probably the best way to reprimand anybody is just go to the polls. You've got that choice, isn't it? Right, I think we have another caller maybe. No, we don't have another caller. We're going to pick up further calls, however. So, yeah, if you're going to call about the issue around the fireside chat with Nzinga Qunta, then don't call now, but you can WhatsApp because we'll play that, or text, right? Text or voice note. You can do that. We can play that right away. If you want to pick up conversations on any of the issues, did you listen to the conversation I had with a Palestinian Christian reverend earlier on, right? Munter Isaacs. Any thoughts that you want to pick up on that conversation and what that means in terms of what he talks about? He's in South Africa right now, mass mobilization of people around the world outside of the established powers to draw attention to the position regarding Israel. If you have an opinion on that, then let's get your thoughts.
Am I left or right-brained? I'm leaning right. However, I do have some left-brain tendencies. Perhaps I'm left-brained with right-brain tendencies. Am I overthinking this? I don't want to be caught underthinking it. Or maybe I'm overthinking about underthinking the overthinking. Which am I?
At RMB, the simple answer is both. When you need a thoughtful solution for financial complexity that doesn't make you choose, there are only 3 letters you need to know. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio. SAFM, leading the conversation. Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Fascinating stats that come out each and every day about local football that keep our fans entertained and enthralled. Lindelwe Moyo, I just need to ask you, the Jabu part of Opta Jabu, do you have a Jabu as a member of your team, or is it just sort of a play on the Opta Joe to make it more, to give it a South African flavour effectively?
Number one, it's a play on the Opta Joe, and then secondly, it's a play on Jabulani, the 2010 World Cup soccer ball. That makes the world understand understand that Jabu is South African. And then lastly, it's also a play on one of our favorite players of all time, Jabu Bule.
Indeed.
Top Sport on SAFM.
But Frank Chikane was tortured and poisoned by the apartheid government, but he never stopped fighting for freedom. In 1994, he flew in a helicopter over the endless lines of South Africans voting for the first time and said afterwards that what he saw was unimaginable. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Chikane's struggle by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. #Remember Me.
This Election Watch feature is brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the #Remember Me initiative.
Well, I tell you what we do here, and we do this every single day of the week, is to encourage people to vote and using different conversations around just that. And I was certainly drawn to I suppose a play of sorts that talks about it's satire in contemporary South Africa, but ultimately it's all focused around the election. So let's get the thoughts of Mike van Graan, who's going to share all this with us. He's an award-winning playwright. Mike, hi.
Hey, Ashraf. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to talk to you. Right. So now you've had. Well, tell me about the show firstly. It's called what? My Fellow South Africans. I've got that right.
Yeah, you got that right, and that comes from times of COVID when we had these so-called family meetings with the president addressing us as my fellow South Africans. So what this piece tries to do is, in fact, pick up on that notion of, addressing our fellow South Africans, except that this time we try to enter into a conversation with them as opposed to simply speaking to them. And so we've done the show in a whole range of different venues, from the traditional theatres and festivals through to people's homes and retirement villages and church halls and schools and even on a jazz cruise. And we use it as a way of catalyzing discussion and debate. So we enter into discussion with people after the show. So that's, you've got it right. It's My Fellow South Africans as a way of catalyzing debate in anticipation of May 29.
And the focus is on the election, notwithstanding the My Fellow South Africans opening line.
Yes, it's very much geared towards the election. It picks up on contemporary themes. We've been running it. It launched in May of last year. So it's been running for just over a year. The actress, a young 28-year-old Kim Blanchardon, is incredibly talented. She's done about 115 shows of this piece all around the country.
And how has it been received?
Phenomenally. I think the reason why it's still going and why we are still getting requests for it to be done is precisely because it's resonating with such a wide range of people, from student activists to corporate leaders to young people, older folk. It's really been one of the big surprises for us, the range of people with whom this piece has resonated. And it's not a piece, because it's satire, it's multi-sketch in nature, so there are different sketches that pick up on different themes. So there's one that picks up on Afrophobia, another one picks up on white privilege, another one picks up on corruption and the like. And I think different sketches make different audiences or different people within the audience feel uncomfortable at times. And then they kind of relax when someone else is kind of being, as they might say, being picked upon, which it's not really about being picked upon. It's about raising issues that might resonate with a particular audience. And I think that this is also the theme, or the theme is kind of quite appealing, because of the broad experience of living in South Africa at this particular time.
And does it mean, and maybe you can just talk to us through a bit more of the sketches that you referred to, but I mean, as you do that, is it then done from the position of like a political party sharing manifestos? So I'm trying to just imagine, if I'm in the audience, what would I expect besides the fun part?
Yeah, so the first sketch opens with the actor playing the role of a steward on South African Airways, and basically says, "Welcome aboard South African Airways. Your one-way ticket to status junk," and then proceeds to kind of like talk about some of the corruption issues within the country. The next sketch, she sings a song, basically to the tune of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, except that she does it, and it's Hallelujahs. And it's a song, to the Guptas and the role that they've played within the country. And what we've also done is, because it's satire, we've integrated Sapira's cartoons into the piece as well. So either between the sketches or where the sketches kind of facilitate this, we incorporate some of these cartoons into that. The next sketch might deal with, the person as if she were Ashraf Garda interviewing 5 young people about whether they're registered to vote, and if so, who they are going to vote for, and if not, why aren't they going to vote. So it's taking some of the research that has been done by the Human Sciences Research Council, and she basically plays all of those 5 very different young people as well as the news reader. So that's the kind of thing that people would experience. Towards the end, obviously, what we want to leave people with is not just a sense of, wow, things are not so great. We want to give people a sense of hope as well. So then the second last sketch is about her getting into a time travel machine, taking people into the future. This is the land of possibility. We are now in the before land, but let us take you to the land of the future. And then, describes a kind of the promised land, which I suppose many of us who come from that generation anticipated we would have post-1994, but which in fact we don't have. So that's kind of how it ends. And then it ends with her singing the song Imagine, John Lennon's Imagine, but with new words that are appropriate to our country.
And maybe we need to go and watch it. So that tells me, and just as we wrap up now, how much, it's still playing and where? I mean, we've got an election coming up. Where is it playing for it to be relevant to all of us listening?
Okay, so it's being played in different people's houses at the moment, but we are going to be up in Johannesburg the last week of May. In fact, we're going to be in Johannesburg the week before the election, so it's going to be at Zoo Lake, at a particular bowling club there. It's going to be at a festival in Limpopo, the Borto Arts Festival, in that particular week. It's also playing different schools. So we've got a website, that people can go to. Or
give us the website and maybe tweet it out too, but give us the website very quickly.
Okay, it's basically mikevangraan.co.za, and details will be available there.
Perfect, mikevangraan.co.za, but feel free to tweet it out as well, Mike. Much appreciated. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if I can get to see my fellow South Africans before I vote on May 29, I may just do that. Thanks for that, Mike. All of that under the broader umbrella of, remember those who voted before and, remember me as we discussed, and the need for all of us to vote.
This Election Watch feature was brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the #RememberMe initiative.
Right, we've got a voice note around. There's a few voice notes about the interview coming up with strangers and celebrities, but here's one about the Metro Police.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your team. Great show always. Sango JJ, the truck driver on N1. Ashraf, I don't know who is in charge, who is giving duties to the Tshwane Metro Police. Just to go, if the commissioner is free, or Minister Begitele, just go and see how the confusion it is there at Pumulani on N1 going to Polokwane. The government is not making money. They are making money. Just go, please. New government, you must look this 20 metro. It's a problem on N1 to Polokwane. We always criticize Western government, but Western government, traffic cops, even highway patrol, they don't operate like these Tshwanes.
I tell you what, considering you are the national pulse, because you reflect everything, we probably need to get this traffic report every single day of the week from you. Special traffic report. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock with Madupi.
Good afternoon, I'm Greg Host with your news. Madupi has already started his weekend. In this news update, Minister visits survivors of building collapse and Ukraine faces renewed Russian attack. The National Health Minister, Joe Phaahla, has heaped praise on both the George Provincial Hospital and the George Mediclinic for working together to help save the lives of the patients brought in from Monday's building collapse. The death toll now stands at 12, with 41 people still unaccounted for. 13 patients are still being treated in hospital. Phaahla, accompanied by the Western Cape Minister for Health, visited patients at both hospitals today. He's called the incident a national disaster.
The hospital rose to the occasion when they were contacted by George Hospital to say we need help because we are overwhelmed. And, from the report we got, they really did everything, stopped operations, and we thank the management, but also all the staff. It's quite heartwarming to know also that even private doctors who were already busy with operations or just about to start agreed to postpone those operations.
The IECs argue that the Constitution doesn't make exceptions for candidates who are granted remission of sentences. It prescribes that anyone who's convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months in prison without the option of a fine is ineligible to stand for public offence. There's an appeal provision stipulating that no one may be regarded as having been sentenced until an appeal against the conviction or sentence has been determined or until the time for an appeal has expired. The IEC advocate, Tembeka Ngakatobi, advanced the following argument before the Concourt, where the IEC is appealing the Electoral Court order allowing former President Jacob Zuma to contest the polls.
What we know from the text of the substantive provision, in other words, the controlling provision, is that a candidate who is convicted of an offence and sentenced to more than 12 months without the option of a fine is disqualified. There is no exception for candidates who received remissions of sentences, no exceptions for pardons. That means that the court can apply the section as it reads. The exclusion of pardons and remissions from Section 47(1)(e) is not an accident of history, but it was a careful policy choice made during the drafting of the Constitution.
The EFF leader, Julius Malema, has told residents of Grokra in the Free State that he will end load shedding once elected into power. He's in the area for a community meeting attended by scores of party supporters.
Every house must have electricity. Before we sell our electricity to anyone outside, we must first electrify the whole of South Africa. It is possible, it can be done, it will be done under the EFF.
The NPA says the state has noted the acquittal of the former State Security Minister Bongani Bongo and 7 accused, including 3 companies, by the Nelspruit Specialised Commercial Crimes Court in Mpumalanga. They were facing 85 charges, including corruption, theft and money laundering, among others. The NPA's Monica Nyuswa.
We understand that some of the accused have been acquitted in this matter. So what is going to happen going forward is that the state is going to weigh its legal options and see if there are prospects of appealing today's judgment. So what are we saying as the NPA is that we still maintain that there is a prima facie case in the matter, and then we will proceed with the remaining accused in the matter.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says a fierce battle is taking place in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine after Russia launched a surprise attack across the border. The BBC's James Waterhouse has more.
Around 5 o'clock this morning, we're told there are several Russian scouting groups that were trying to make their way into different villages before they tried to make a broader push with armoured vehicles. I don't think this amounts to the anticipated Russian offensive with the gathering of tens of thousands of troops across the border, but it could well be Russian forces attempting to establish what's called a buffer zone, because Ukrainian forces have increasingly been shelling settlements in Russia's Belgorod region across the border.
Top story, the National Health Ministers heap praise on both the George Provincial Hospital and the George Mediclinic in the Western Cape for working together to help save the lives of the patients brought in from Monday's building collapse. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khoos.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Proteas woman coach Mourinho steps down and time running out for Arsenal as City surge for Premier League glory. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in the Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Lindbro Park has a stationary truck near Marlborough Drive. The N12 R24 westbound in Bedford View is slow moving on both routes towards Kiluli's interchange. The M1 northbound in Southgate has delays towards Xavier Street. Winnie Mandela Drive southbound in Fourways has a crash reported near Leslie Avenue. Weirder Road in Centurion has a crash at Old Johannesburg Road, which is slowing traffic on all approaches. And the N4 Witbank Highway westbound in Pretoria has a crash before the N1 highway. In KZN, the N3 outbound has a stationary vehicle at the N2 north off-ramp at Spaghetti Junction queuing traffic. The M4 northbound has a crash after Umhlanga Rocks Drive. The N2 southbound is queuing through Prospection. The N3 westbound has a crash before Camperdown exit, and Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound is queuing at Voortrekker Road. The R300 northbound is queuing on the ramp to the N1 outbound. The N1 outbound is queuing towards Okavango Road, and the N2 outbound is slow moving towards Muwade. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So it's a Friday, which means we chill out with a fireside chat with Nzinga Kunta today. Looking forward to that. She'll be joining us pretty shortly. But what you can do, we've asked her to decide the topic, and the topic is, what's the nicest experience you've ever had with a celebrity or a stranger? So it's either the stranger, complete unknown, or a celebrity, and you've interacted with that person, and can you share that experience? Now, what I suggest you do, if you have an opinion and you've had an experience, in fact, you can drop us a voice note or WhatsApp text right away, okay? So we can play it, 0614 104 107. Share that wherever you may be. And it could be in South Africa, around the world, wherever it is, right? That's the one thing you can do right away. So, in the meantime, on some of the issues that we've covered right now, if you've been following the Concord issue on the future of the MK party and Jacob Zuma, and whether his image will finally be on that ballot sheet as it stands now or not, because it's been appealed, well, then you certainly can contact us right away. So before she jumps into that fireside chat conversation, you can talk to me. So any things that you feel that relates to the National Pulse that you feel that you want to get off your chest, we'll take your calls right away. Now, to call in, it is 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. I want to check. I think Sydney has an opinion. Hi, Sydney.
Oh, brother.
Yes, how's it, man? Yeah, how are you?
Fine.
Good,
I'm
good.
okay. I'm Sydney, the labor in Akono Bushpark.
Right, good to talk to you. Thank you.
It's okay. Yeah, we welcome you back.
Much appreciated. It's a strange thing. Away for 5 years and back for a month now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay, brother Ashraf. Brother Ashraf, my take on the recent utterances of DA, banning of the flag lately, it simply means this. Suppose the A wins the elections 29 May. I strongly believe we black African people, colors and Indians, we are to suffer a passive racism or undocumented racism here and there. Because whatever that they do, it tells me that it seems as if they've got an anger of the black African people, colors and Indians were set free back in 1994. The mere fact that they won't allow certain parties to contest in the Western Cape, in the bigger picture, it simply means if we win here, certain races won't be welcome here.
So let me ask you, a couple of things. Are you saying they will win, or if they win?
If they win elections, believe me, there will be some kind of racism in South Africa. It will be back in another door.
But then you said they prevented other parties from contesting elections in the Western Cape. I don't know about that. Tell me.
It is like that. They were not allowing certain minority parties to contest because, according to them, they say Western Cape is well run. It's doing well.
No. I think not allowed is not the same as suggesting they must not take part. I think they've certainly, but not allowed means you can't take part. And, South Africa is a democracy. No party can do that. But yes, they have discouraged. They've suggested that some parties, I think good. I think Rise SA, Mzansi rather, right, has almost taken away their spaces and they've told them to stay away, but they can't not allow them to take part. Now, you're saying if they win, are you confident? I mean, you really think they can win an election?
Yeah, if they can win an election, but that's what I take my word. There will be some kind of racism. It will be sort of in its back. But I can only advise my fellow South Africans that vote any political party you're convinced it will fix the country, but do not vote DA as a black African, because I doubt if they coming were to go back there. They will bring back the yoke one suffered many years ago. There will be no Oliver Tambo to fight it back. There will be no Govan Mbeki. There will be no Mandela. They're all gone.
No, I don't know. I think we've got a constitutional democracy, and I'll tell you now, there are sufficient checks and balances to ensure we will not ever go back to the apartheid era, no matter what.
But with DA, but any other plan I can listen. But with DA, Freedom Front is clear. It's very clear that they are too distant to us black African people. But with DA, they come with a friendly face, knowing exactly what they hold behind their backs.
Okay.
They'll pick us back there.
All right, Sydney. You have got me thinking. You should get the DA thinking. Thanks for that. Let's get Billy's thoughts. Hi, Billy.
Yes, Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed, right? What do you want to say? You're talking about the flag too?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You see, Ashraf, I don't understand why the SABC wants to ban that advertisement. For one reason. Is the DA saying that let's ban the flag, or should ban the flag? The DA simply saying that the flag is burning, save the flag. Is there any electoral law that says you cannot advertise on public platform that is not even inciting any violence? It's simply saying the flag is burning, save the flag. Now the SABC has gone above board by not allowing DA to advertise its own message on a public platform. And mind you, that flag belongs to all of us. Even the DA is liable to that flag. And it's not like it is inciting violence against any other political party. It is simply putting its message across. You remember when Winnie Mandela said that the fight back strategy of the DA is interpreted as saying fight blacks. So I don't understand why SABC is taking such a decision.
All right. Well, let's see how that plays out. Okay. I hear your thoughts. Let's see how that plays out. Thanks for that call, Billy. The last call I can take because our guest, Nzinga Kunkwa, is in the house, so she's going to be part of this fireside chat. Let's take the last call for now. I think it's Shatta and George, right? Hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, you're in George. You're in George. I mean, that's the George, right?
The George.
Yeah.
The George in the news. Yes.
All right. What do you want to say?
You know, in 2013, I think there was a slab there was a building slab that collapsed in Durban, and everybody was asking hard questions. The incompetency of people appointed, the incompetency of BEE, Black Economic Empowerment. In 2017, in Cranston Drive, a bridge collapsed, and there was hard questions asked just immediately after the incident. Yes, we understand that people might have lost their lives, and it's a very sad thing. But hard questions are not being asked in George. Is it because now George is in a predominantly DA area that is seen to be competent, and we shouldn't be asking these hard questions? Is it easier to ask questions where it is predominantly black people that are residing at? Why are we being so inconsistent on asking these questions? The incompetencies of the contractors, the incompetencies of the professional team. I mean, I'm talking about the consultants, the engineers.
Okay, I hear you. Let's leave it at that. I think questions are being asked. You must understand there's a process. You know, the first thing is you have a building collapse. Then it's a question of, can we save people? Then you save people. Then at some stage you find some people die. Then there's the whole building gets destroyed completely. Then it's an issue of not just saving but retrieving, right? Then there's the families. Now, all that has happened in the last few days. I think there's definitely conversations around what actually happened, around the building plans, around the construction. I think those questions are being asked. And to be fair, and I'm certainly no supporter of any single political party, let me put it that way, but we can't just assume because it's in a DA area. I mean, these are things governed by the entire rules of the country. There's no way someone can ignore those questions being asked when they get asked, no matter where they're going to be, whether it's in KwaZulu-Natal or in George. Thanks for that call. Appreciate it. I think that will happen soon, and we'll see how that develops. Clearly, I'm sure, next week, right? Okay, now we're going to move on to other issues, which I suppose more important issues, like a fireside chat with Nzinga Kunta. We're going to talk to her right after this.
SABC Sport is proud to bring you the best polo match on television screens. Watch the South African national polo teams take on the best from around the world. First on the annual fixture is the eagerly awaited international battle at the Nedbank International Polo on Saturday, 11 May 2024 from 1:30 p.m. Watch live on SABC Sport as Argentina, the best of the Americas, face off with South Africa, the best of Africa. Catch the build-up, the international match, and the prize-giving ceremony on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012-568-3233. That's 012-568-3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 10th of May 2024 at the SABC Auditorium in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. The University of Pretoria will take on the University of Witwatersrand in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, hold the thoughts around everything else besides the fireside chat because Nzinga Kunta is with me, so we're part of this fireside chat for a Friday afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, for having me.
Thank
a very
you.
good afternoon to you and your listeners.
And the plan is in some way, I may be the anchor, but you're the co-host anchor. I'm sure you'll manage that, would you?
I think I've got a pretty good idea of how to do radio and media.
Well, if you don't, we'll see how we can guide you along. Yeah. But listen, let's get that question out first. Now, the brief is that we have this thing every Friday. Last week we had Fasiya Hassan from the ANC. We've had the Lazy Makoti the previous week. I we run through all those things, right? Yeah. And we ask you, in this case yourself, to say, you choose the topic.
Yeah.
So I have no choice in the topic. You drive it, okay? So what have you chosen?
I've chosen really beautiful interactions that people have had with strangers or celebrities.
Right.
Because I think there's so much kindness in the country. I think as a people in South Africa, we are just so warm, kind and big-hearted, and we need so much of that. And You know, when I do get to listen to radio, I don't like the doom and gloom. Like, we know that the lights are not working. We know that the roads are not working. But there's also really powerful, beautiful stories. What are those? And it's in the small things. Joy is in the small things. So I thought that's
what you want to put. So it's conversations with strangers and conversations with celebrities.
Yeah,
with
I
people,
think it's just share really beautiful interactions that you've had. Maybe someone's done something really kind for you in the day. You don't know who they are. Or you've met someone you've really admired and they've been very kind to you, or someone has done something amazing for you. I love stories like that.
Okay, so these are not cases of like mistaken identities or anything of that sort. No, nothing of that sort. Yeah.
No.
Now, by coincidence, I start the show every day with a feature called "That's My Point," and we raise certain issues. And yesterday we spoke about what unites us and what divides us. But today I just shared my experience about coming back to OR Tambo International Airport and then being struck by just the friendliness at the airport.
Yeah.
Compared to many other airports in the world.
There is nothing
Do you
like
agree?
it. There is nothing. Whenever you go away, you come home. I mean, sometimes you get someone at the airport who's a bit grumpy.
Yeah.
But just it's at the airport, it's in any public space. People greet here. And it's something that if you're in London, you're on the tube, you're greeting people like, what are you doing? We've got such a warmth to us. And
they respond, right? I mean, so when you say like, how's it or whatever, like
I mean, you get a few
that.
grumpy, annoying people who act like you're not there. But in general, it's that thing. You come home, you know you are home. It's very powerful. That thing.
Well,
I love it.
So do you have a story to kick us off?
I have so many. She's going to be very annoyed with me if I tell the story, but I'm going to do it anyway. Simpiwe Dana.
Okay, there we are.
Incredible singer, incredible human being. She's having a concert down the road from her house. I'm like, I'll come over for a cup of tea afterwards. Yeah. So she comes over for a cup of tea and she goes to use my bathroom. And she comes out and I've got these rails of these Kosa Umbato dresses that I wear.
Okay.
And I've got like so many of them. And she comments like, you've got so many of these dresses. And I said to her, but I'm starting pupillage, right?
Yeah,
and so when I go to court, I can't be in my orange umbaco. I need to be, in my black and white.
Corporate look,
and so I need to start doing a bit more shopping. I do wear my Kosa dresses to court, but I don't have enough like black and white and dark colors as per the rules. This woman then sends over 3 massive bags of designer clothing in black and white.
Simpiwe Dana did that?
Yes. How incredible.
Oh my God. And this obviously happened like, 6 months ago? Or?
No. I just started pupillage at the end of Jan. So it happened a month ago.
Oh, so just a month. Okay.
Yeah. And it was just such a sweet, kind thing to do. I wasn't like, hi, please give me clothes.
Yeah.
And she insisted because I was like, that's sweet, thank you. Sometimes people offer to do stuff.
Yes.
And she insisted, and the most beautiful stuff.
And how did you feel about it?
I thought it was so kind. I have the great privilege of knowing incredible people who are so kind to me. I don't know why I like to think that I'm a kind person, but it's really such a beautiful thing when you don't expect someone to do something and they do that. So that's my story.
So that's one. Okay. Have you got a well, I mean, that one's already, that's not the stranger, that's the celebrity one already, right? That's like, do you have a stranger story?
Yeah. I go to Davos, the World Economic Forum. I host there in January, and I'm now staying in an Airbnb. Normally I stay in a hotel, but this year I decided to stay in an Airbnb. I get lost, Ashraf, after hours of flying, and I get lost. But then they say to me, the people that I'm staying with say, this is your Airbnb. I send a picture and I say, I'm outside this door, is it? They say it is. So I knock, I open, this lady opens, but I just think this doesn't look like my host.
Yeah.
I don't know her. As soon as she says it's not the house, I burst out crying. Because I've been traveling for hours now.
So you still haven't arrived. You still got your luggage with you. Yeah.
This woman makes me a total random stranger from South Africa, makes me come upstairs, sit with her and her husband. They make sure that I eat dinner. They drive me to the proper Airbnb. I leave my laptop in the car. They come back and they bring me some chocolates, and we're still in touch. I need to send them some South African wine. So that's the strangest
she's South
story.
African. So I'm like, what's the
No, they're Swiss. They're Swiss
okay,
strangers
you're the South
who I
African
just
and she's
walked
the Swiss
into
woman,
their
yeah.
home.
Okay,
and instead of being like, what's going on, they just showed me such kindness.
Well, there you are. There are many more stories like that, right?
Yeah.
Let's get some. Here's a question very quickly. Ashraf, you introduced Nzinga as a former newsreader. Is she a lady no longer working at the SABC? Well, you're clearly not watching, otherwise you would have said so. Quickly, tell us where you are.
Okay, I am doing my pupillage. I'm learning how to be an advocate. It's a very intense program where they teach you how to draft, how to argue, essentially how to be a litigation lawyer. So if all goes well and I pass all my exams, next year I'll be an advocate of the High Court of South Africa.
Okay.
And maybe I can see
I'm
you
just
playing
checking out
the
what's
news.
going on there with Dali
Yeah, maybe I'll be a senior counsel one day, but I think I'm just aiming for now to become an advocate.
Can you imagine you being at the ICJ? I'm looking at that. That's like
I
a
think
World
it could
Cup
happen.
of sorts. You
Anything
never
can
know.
happen,
Well, there you
yeah.
are. Okay, there's some voice notes from people that we've asked to share. Here's one, right?
Yeah, good evening, Ashraf. This is Divine from Central Pretoria. One of my celebrities I've ever come across is Robin White. He used to be a journalist with the British Broadcasting Corporation, and my wish was always to meet him, and I met him in the year 1996 when he visited Cameroon. It was really a pleasure for me sharing a bottle of beer with Robin White. So that's just an experience I really want to share with the national parks or on the national parks.
Nice.
Well, you certainly have done that. I need to give you a number to call. I mean, you can do that, but if you can read that number, maybe you can. This is like a dry run for you. That 086 number right on top. Okay.
All right.
So, can I encourage you? Get people to call in and
All
share their
right,
experiences.
please do share your experiences with us. You can call us on 086 000 2032. You can also SMS us 41391.
I think nobody's going to SMS. So ignore the SMS. But the WhatsApp, yes. Yeah.
And our WhatsApp line is 061 410 4107.
Okay, there we
and
are.
on X we are?
Well, SAFM Radio, yeah.
SAFM Radio.
And you are calling it X. I still call it Twitter because it just
know.
doesn't work for me. Okay, here's another, and this is with us about strangers, right?
Evening, Ashraf. I just want to share my experience around the world. I was in Rio 2020, Rio, Brazil, and as I walk around, I meet people, strangers. I couldn't even speak the language properly. But I met this homeless lady by the beach, sitting, and I just sat by her side on the bench, learning the language. And then I did mention Nelson Mandela's name from Africa. And then it almost brought tears to my eyes as she sang Free Nelson Mandela to me. And it always made me feel so special out there when I meet people, different kinds of people, and I mention South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and they will tell me about him. Even if I couldn't understand Portuguese, but they will sing so beautifully to me because they gave me the sense they know him. And when you walk around the world, people know you and they can associate with us. This is Nikki Way from Mangaung. Thank you.
What an incredible story.
That's a nice call, isn't it?
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. Lovely, Nikki. Well, I mean, that's another thing, and maybe it's a side issue to the bigger one, which is also when you're traveling and people find out you're South African, you know.
Nothing like it.
What do they say? I know just after the World Cup, by the way, every stranger you met, and I was in Singapore and Malaysia at the time, I was like,
beautiful.
Waka Waka. That is it. Nobody said Bafana, but they all just said South Africa, Waka Waka, which is 6 months after the 2010 World Cup. I think there's another one I can play. Let's just hear that, then we'll get back to talking to you. But feel free to call in as well, okay? 086 000 2032. Your experiences in dealing with strangers or with celebrities, but like we're talking about good. We're talking of good experiences. Well, it's nothing negative, just great experiences.
Hello, SAFM. This is Thabisile Mbogazi, and I am texting you because I had one very special experience. It was Dumantando and her sister. They looked identical. It's her twin. And I had such a special, she was so kind. And I was so excited. I was so young at the time. I was so excited, you know. I just jumped into her and she was so friendly, and we had a conversation with her, and she was telling me where they were gonna be that weekend, you know, that energy that she gave me, that, you know, I could actually relate, you know, it was special for me.
Another special one. Let me play another one just before we get to the news headlines.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dorothy from Durban. I've got many, but I'm going to choose this one to tell you this evening. My son broke his neck a few years ago, well, not a few, 13 years ago. and he was in hospital, and his friends arranged for Mikasa to come and visit him in hospital. And my son didn't know because he loves Mikasa. And next thing, his room was just filled with all the band members from Mikasa, and it was such a delightful afternoon that we spent with them, and they took time out with him and spoke to him, and so we'll never forget that, and we'll be so grateful to Mikasa forever for bringing so much joy to my son in a very, very dark period of his life. And thank you so much for a good show. Bye.
Beautiful story, Mikasa.
Amazing.
And I hope your son's much, much better now. We'll talk about those things in a moment. Let's get to the news headlines now with Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines of this Sapphire. The IECs argue that the Constitution makes no distinction between courts that impose sentences. The National Health Ministers heap praise on both the George Provincial Hospital and the George Mediclinic in the Western Cape for working together to help save the lives of the patients brought in from Monday's deadly building collapse. And stock exchanges in Europe have hit new records in early trading. More on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Bromfontein has roadworks with traffic restrictions near Smith Street reported. Winnie Mandela Drive southbound in Fourways has a crash near Leslie Avenue. Summit Road westbound in Midrand has delays at Blue Hills, and the N14 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing through Prospection. Walnut Road is closed opposite the ICC complex for the Africa Travel in Durban event. Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2, and Rick Turner Road westbound is queuing towards Bel Air Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 inbound slow moving towards that M5 Koeberg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Right, Tumi, we're off to the weekend, so
Yeah.
what's up?
So much coming up this weekend, but let's start off things with cricket. Proteas women head coach Hilton Moring says that he will step down at the end of the 2023-24 season. Moring was at the helm for 11 years, taking charge of 279 matches across all three formats. Under his guidance, the Proteas women won 84 out of 149 one-day international matches, and in T20 internationals, the team secured 60 victories out of 127 encounters, with one draw and 2 losses in Test cricket. And assistant coach Dylan DeBrier will take over the reins in the interim. In tennis, former US Open champion Dominic Thiem says that he will retire later this year because of the wrist injury which derailed his career. The 30-year-old reached 4 Grand Slam finals before the wrist problem forced him off the ATP tour. Thiem hopes to finish his career at a home event in Vienna in October. Then in football, talking about football action to look forward to this weekend, Pep Guardiola says that he won't be asking for any favours from Manchester United this weekend, as Manchester City manager tries to leap over incredible Arsenal in the Premier League title race. City face Fulham tomorrow, knowing a victory would move them 2 points clear of leaders Arsenal, but the Gunners will reclaim top spot if they win at Manchester United on Sunday. Ashraf, do you think Man U can beat Arsenal?
Why would you think of an underperforming Man United to try and snuff out the Gunners?
You never know. Maybe it could be a draw.
I think the more important one is if Arsenal loses, and if they do,
Right.
and Man City wins,
Then Man City is
2
gonna
points
be-
clear.
yeah.
So they're not yet league champions. 2 points. Okay.
2 points
Got
clear.
that.
2 points clear. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to do. But then SA Football Association chairperson of the National Referees, Victor Gomez, says that implementation of the video assistant referee is possibly a few weeks or months away. Gomez says that big steps have been made towards the VAR implementation, and they'll be finalizing budgets in the next 2 weeks.
As the chairman of referees in South Africa, we had a meeting recently, and I know that it's on the way now. Now we are progressing very fast.
Are you, when it comes to the processes?
Well, now we're sitting for some budgetary costs in the next 2 weeks, and that's how far we are already. So we've gotten quite far. We've been working it for the past year already. So it's not something that you just switch on and say, yes, we're going to do it. We need to go through the processes, go through the budgets, and go through everything. So it's quite intense.
On that note, that's it from my side for SAFM Sport.
So here's the thought as we say goodbye. Up to now, we've not had a single VAR row in South Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. A few weeks or months away.
I can just imagine Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, I don't know, Stellenbosch. Yeah, Stellies, VAR.
It will be interesting because there's been a lot of complaints in the PSL about officiating. So,
well, I mean, there's complaints with and without. Around the world, okay?
Yeah.
Real Madrid game as well. So, but it has to come. But there will be arguments. Yeah, let's see how it plays out from a production point of view. Somebody, in fact, was a VAR monitoring specialist. There's a job for them available. I mean, suddenly there's a whole new industry that will develop in South Africa. Just think about that. Yeah. Okay, think about that over the weekend.
All right, then enjoy the rest of your weekend. Murimukyo.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
For the first time in 30 years, the ANC is set to lose its majority. Opposition parties have united as the multi-party charter for South Africa.
A strong democratic alliance with a proven track record
Can anchor a new government that serves the people.
But a new government that works is only possible if you vote for it. Let's unite to rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Okay, Frank Chikane was detained, tortured and poisoned by the apartheid government, but he never stopped fighting for freedom. In 1994, he flew in a helicopter over the endless lines of South Africans voting for the very first time, and then said afterwards that what he saw was, listen to this one, unimaginable. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust Remember Me initiative encourages South Africans to honour Chikane's struggle by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. #Remember Me.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, last markets update for the week, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to me and to the listeners. Seems like we're closing out the week in very strong territory. Some positive data out of China driving some positive sentiment within the market. We know that yesterday we got import data out of China suggesting higher import figures than what was expected, but we've also finalized the first quarter GDP numbers from China. Markets had initially expected around a 4.6% GDP growth from China. We actually got 5.3%. That surprise to the upside seems to have reignited a spark within the markets. The all share, before we get to the all share, let's start with foreign markets. Let's look at Chinese markets. The Hong Kong markets were up about 2.3% in today's trade, with Sydney up about 1/3% and Tokyo up about 0.4%. In European markets, the FTSE in London was up about 0.7%, DAX in Germany 0.4% to the green, and the CAC in France up 1/3%. US markets aren't faring quite as strongly just yet, but they still have quite a bit of trading left to do. NASDAQ down 0.1% at the stage, S&P up almost 0.1%, and the Dow up just over 0.1%. If we look at the local markets, the all share having a stellar day, finishing up 1.1%, with resources leading the charge there. They were up 2.5%, and financials closely behind with 1.2% gains there. Industrials were the lagging indicator. They were only up 0.3%, but nicely in the green nonetheless. Some of the counters that did well there, if we look at the companies that had a really good day, Amplats was up 7.5%, RCL Foods 6.1%, Emira Property Fund up almost 6%, Implats up 5.8%. Even EOH had a good day. They were up 4.6%. Sasol up 4%. Kumba up 3.5%, back above that 500 Rand level. It's been struggling to get back to that point. Mustec, on the other hand, was in the red. They were down 5%. Karoo was down almost 3%. Ark Invest down about 2.6%. Bell Equipment down about 2.5%. And Raubex down about 1.5%. In the case of Raubex, we will look forward to results coming out next week, and we'll be covering that on our show as well to see how the company has performed and what we can expect from that. If we look at some of the currency moves, though, the Rand still holding its ground, not only against the dollar, but against all of the other major currencies as well, gaining about 1.3% against the US dollar at 18 Rand 43, and gaining about 1% against both the euro and the pound at 23 Rand and 7 cents against the pound and 19 Rand 85 against the euro. If we look at some commodity movements, the Brent crude price still holding steady around that $83. Nice to see it's not moving to the upside. The gold price, however, is skyrocketing again. It is looking toward $2,400 an ounce. It's currently at around $2,365 an ounce, up about 2.3%. Those keeping an eye on cryptos, those are fairly steady at the moment. Ethereum below $3,000 once again at 2,935. Bitcoin still above 61,000 at 61,148. There are a couple of other companies reporting numbers next week. The likes of Vodacom and Calgro M3 as well will be reporting on Monday. So we'll have lots to dissect when the new week begins. But for now, we'll take the wins, we'll take the positivity going into a long weekend, and we'll look forward to a strong week next week. We'll leave it at that, and we'll catch up next week when the markets resume. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, Jimmy, have a great weekend. We're going to chat on Monday. I'm sure of that. Yeah. Okay, that's Jimmy Moya for the MoneyWeb market update. Right, we're going to get back to the issues around the more important issues of the fireside chat in Zinga. Kunta with me. You better give us the pitch all again. Why we talking and what we talk about.
So Ashraf, tonight on the fireside chat here on SAFM, we're going to be talking about experiences that people have had with strangers and celebrities that have lifted them, that have made an impact on them, that have just done something to elevate them. And I think it's important because we tell so many stories in South Africa, but a lot of the time the narrative is negative. And I think that we've got so much positivity, and without clouding over the things. I get so annoyed by the things that happen. I think especially in Johannesburg, which is such an incredible city, which I've fallen in love with, there's so much that it's like, guys, we need to get it together. We are not being a world-class African city right now. I love that slogan. I love that Parkstown moment where people were just like, okay, all this optimism, and it's going now because our roads are struggling, our infrastructure is struggling, our water, we know all of that. What are other stories?
Yeah. And you're saying there are daily human stories.
Of course.
Just daily interactions.
We would not be South Africa without them. I'm one of those people who are so deeply in love with our country despite the flaws that we have, because it's taken so much for us to get here.
Yeah.
And we are incredible people for the majority that live in this country.
Okay, the next person that calls in...
Or international.
The next person that calls in, whoever you are, as you call in, we'll get Nzinga to answer that call, okay? So that's your challenge. So, I mean, I'd thought, I'd forgotten about, celebrity moments until we had the Mikasa story. right? That, the lady calling about Mikasa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it struck me about my one. Can I share it?
Please do.
Right? So my daughter, she was made the head girl of a school, Parktown
Nice.
Girls. That's Amara. Like your daughter's name?
My daughter's name is Amara.
So a few days later, I went to some event, and lots of like celebrities there, and like people are fussing, and then many people knew about it because we had posted it. Like, oh, well done on your daughter, etc. And then the one woman in particular, I told my daughter, I told her, my daughter's a really good fan of yours. She admires the things that you do, right? And she said, "Thank you very much. It's really kind." The usual things, right? And then we got home, and then 2 days later, we decided. My daughter's friend said, "Well, let's have a surprise bride for the head girl, right?"
Beautiful.
So I said, "Well, so yeah, that's fine." So then I thought that person, the celebrity who was so kind about being admired by my daughter, let me ask if she could send a video or a WhatsApp. I think it'd be really nice to play it. Okay, and so I messaged her. And then she was busy, and then at that stage, I don't know, boyfriend, fiance said, "Listen, she's busy. She'll call you back just now." And then she called and says, "Listen, thanks for the request about the voice note or the video. I don't live in Joburg, but I'm in Joburg for the weekend. Would you mind if I come to the bride?" So we said, "Rolling Strauss, you can come with pleasure."
Oh no!
She was Miss World. She was just.
I love her.
That was like 3 months after she was made Miss World.
She's a doctor.
Yeah.
She's our Miss SA.
Yeah.
Even on Instagram, you can see she has such a nice vibe.
Yeah. So that's what happened.
I love her.
So
that's
Rolene volunteered,
incredible.
and her husband now, Daniil, they came home to that surprise, and that's the point. Of course, she knows me. I understand that.
But she didn't have to do that.
But
She could have been like, "Oh no!"
It was never on the agenda. I didn't even ask her.
Amazing.
She volunteered to say, "Can I come home?"
Beautiful.
Of course, the
That's
girls
why she was
were.
our Miss SA and our Miss World.
The girls were thrilled. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a voice note that I think ties into what you just spoke about, right?
Okay.
Afternoon, Ashraf. This is Magdalene from Bloom. Ashraf, my little one started pageantry and modeling since she was 8 years in 2007. And then she started winning the titles she competed for, only to find that other people are looking at her. And then 2019, she was invited for table of the 10 of Cyril Ramaphosa fundraising here in Bloemfontein. Really, it was a nice exposure for her. Since I always accompany her, I also enjoyed it. From Bloemfontein.
Yeah, nice story.
Nice story. I think I've seen the president. I've worked with him. Well, not with him, but I've worked hosting events where he's there, and he's very charming and has so much time for people, and you just see the way whoever interacts with him, really serious business people, young people. My daughter has said she's tired of me emceeing gigs with the president and not meeting him, so I still need to make that happen.
Well, you need to make it happen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you've got a month with this president. And maybe he continues. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't want to venture into that. We don't know what's going to happen.
Listen, here's a serious question about you, okay?
Yeah.
Please ask your guest, Ashraf Nzinga, why she always wears dukes. She's still young, and she should be showing off various hairstyles from Matari. Yeah. Okay.
So I get that question a lot.
Okay.
I decided I'm not wearing a head wrap now. I'm not wearing a clear now. So if you go into the live stream that we have, you will see my locks in a beautiful updo. I decided that I wanted to present myself a certain way on television.
So very intentional position.
I was very intentional about it because what you find in South Africa, and I don't want to get too deep into the politics of hair, but we are often told that our natural hair that grows out of our hair, as curly and coarse as it is not good enough. And so when you're on television, when you have a platform, when you're on the news, you know you've made it when your hair's very straight and very long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to make it.
You're not going to do that.
I'm not going to make it. And then also, I was trying to grow out my hair and I wrapped it once and I was like, oh, that looks nice. And then I did it some more and it looked beautiful. There's something regal about a head wrap.
I think it
about
is.
presenting yourself a certain way, and especially in certain spaces. Because the one thing and I didn't realize the impact until people would speak to me and say, you know, normally people only dress like that on Heritage Day, or you won't find someone in a business setting. I'm, without blowing my own horn, in some of the most prestigious business spaces and to walk in there with my head wrap, with my umbako and my fabulous heels as a black South African woman is also quite a cool, powerful thing. So that's why I do it.
Agree.
I'm 40 and on the weekends I don't wear a head wrap, and at court I don't wear a head wrap.
Well, this is good for you. I think it's made an impact. Okay, that's off the topic, but I think it's an important interaction. Now listen, besides we've got many voice notes, but that doesn't mean we've got calls. We need you to call in.
Okay,
what about
must I do the number again?
Do that, please do.
Okay, please call us on 086 000 2032 and just share your experiences with us, or just say hi to Ashraf and I.
Yeah. And then the voice notes, if you wish, 0614 104 107. Text or voice notes right after this.
Okay.
Location, London. Unit, the London Serious Crime Unit. The Steering, Luther. A dedicated policeman, an inspired maker of connections, and a whirlwind genius. Dazzling, obsessive, and sometimes dangerous in the violence of his fixations. The Challenge. Every episode will see Luther facing a succession of psychological duels between a hunter and the hunted, a predator and the prey. Tune in to Luther, Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 1st of May. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up. Count down the best 41 moments from the last decade of Top Gear every Friday at 9 p.m. from the 3rd of May with Richard Hammond. Throwback to James May, aka Captain Slow, driving up an active volcano. The team goes on an epic supercar road trip through Romania and the unmasking of the Stig. I really thought he was malevolent. This is automotive action you simply cannot miss. Channel your inner Stig with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, more to come as we've got some callers now. We're going to chat. There's a few callers, right? So we are chatting as part of this fireside chat. And let me just remind you of what we're talking about here. We're saying experiences you've had with people you don't know at all, strangers, and then experiences with people who are celebrities, well-known people in the country or even around the world that are just heartwarming experiences. So we're not talking about achievements, okay? We're talking about actual experiences and what they are. So there's a call. Are you going to take this call, right?
I am.
Fazika, you can go ahead, yeah?
A very good evening.
Hello.
Welcome to SAFM. How are you?
Thank you, fine. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, my name is Fezek. I'm calling from Tanzania.
Okay.
I would like to share an experience I had last year in November.
Mm-hmm.
We were coming back from Bloemfontein to fetch my daughter, who's at university there. And then our car broke down. I think we were about 45 minutes from Bloemfontein. The car broke down totally, and we were like stuck there, not knowing what to do. It was actually overheating, so we stopped on the side of the road to try and get it cool off, and then to see if we can drive further. The car was quite loaded with my daughter's belongings, and then after being there for quite some time, this truck actually stopped. We didn't stop any car. We didn't stop any trucks. So this guy stopped, and then he came over and asked us what was the problem. The bonnet was open, so he went and took a look, and then he said, I think I know what's wrong here. He went back to his truck, brought back a few wires and some tools, and then started to work on the car. And within 15 minutes, the car was fixed.
Amazing.
And he told us that you can drive as far as Namibia with what I've done to your car. And honestly, we drove all the way back home, and we didn't have a moment's stress because the car was sorted. The guy's name was An. He said his name was Anu. So, yes, Anu. So that guy really was an angel sent from above to actually fish us out of that sticky situation. So I just want to say, people can be very friendly and can be very helpful in South Africa. That's what you should appreciate.
What a lovely story. I mean, that just reminded me, just by the way, when I got married, so traditionally we would have family members going out to some of the houses to invite and hand over the wedding cards, right? And my mother and maybe my aunt were going out to Pretoria, and their car got stuck just outside of where they lived, and there's this guy that they know, but they don't know.
Yes.
And he saw what the problem was. Like four women, and he said, "Look, I know nothing about cars, but I'll tell you what. If you need to go to get the invites, take my car, leave this car here.
Beautiful.
Okay, they live in the same community. Leave this car here. I'll sort it out. And then when they're to come back, they have to find out where he lives to sort things out. That's
that
like a long time.
incredible.
So there are. I think you've just reminded us that. Goodness, we've got nonsense in this country, but we've got some incredible human beings too.
And the incredible human beings like Fezeka was talking about, shout out to Arno, I think outweigh the nonsense.
Absolutely.
And we need to also give that prominence without hiding what's wrong. But, if you sometimes open some publications, you'll be like, ooh, this is a war zone, with just chaos.
There we are. Okay, there's another call. Ali is here. You can take that call.
Ali, a very good evening. Thanks so much for calling in. Tell us your story.
Good evening, dear sister. It's not all gloom and doom about humanity.
Tell us.
I got stuck when I was in a place called Pitigi Shuleyan. How did the horses die in Rustenburg? There.
Hectic.
So I was going towards a place where we were going towards with my female colleague, and then I got a puncture in front of a certain house I didn't know. The gentleman of that house just came in. It was towards just after sunset. He called his boys to push the car inside this yard. He called my female colleague into his house. They said they must make us see. He called his boys. He said, "Send on the tire, fix that tire and what that." They did everything, and they told us we must eat supper there and everything.
Nice.
My brother, it was so amazing. And from there, he took us to the place we were supposed to go after fixing the whole thing. That man's name is Mr. Nkele. I won't forget that man.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, but Ali, really appreciate calling in and sharing that.
Yeah, nice one. Let's take the last. I think we've got a few others, but there's like 3 minutes to go.
Let's squeeze it in.
Okay, Kulani, hi.
Hi, calling from.
Kulani, your line is struggling a bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hello.
Ooh.
Oh, I think see if you can call back because we'll try and get yours. There's a few more WhatsApps that.
Let's play the WhatsApps while we wait for the line.
So there's something about here's one.
Ashraf and Nzinga. This is Marvelous from Durban. Oh, like one stranger or one person who is a celebrity that showed me so much kindness is David Mashabela of Radio 2000. He was still doing Kings and Queens 9 to 12 from 2000 back in 2019. So he asked the callers to call in how are they celebrating their Easter Friday. That was in 2019. I called in. I told him, no, I'm all alone here where I'm renting. Everybody's gone home. I didn't go home because I was robbed. I got mugged the previous day. They took my cell phone. Luckily, I had 2 cell phones. I didn't have money, my bank cards, nothing. And he sent me, and he asked, how much will it cost you to get home? I said, 250 rands. And he sent me an email of 500 rands. I managed to go home on that Easter Friday of 2019. I will never ever forget what David Mashabela did for me. Thank you.
That is so
beautiful
sweet.
Story.
And look at that. Look at that. That's beautiful.
And it's an interesting one. At what stage do you we probably all get requests. I'm sure you do, and I go like, where do you stop and where don't you? But clearly, David's done something that's
well, I'm a pupil, so it means I don't have money for the whole year.
Well, there you are. Yeah, there you are. Okay, here's another one I'm going to squeeze in before we wrap up the show. Yeah.
Hey, SAFM. Actually, I work in the cruise ship, The song Jerusalem is like a national anthem. Each and every crew member, doesn't matter Japanese, Chinese, all the nation, man. You go to the crew bar, the only song they sing is Jerusalem.
Well, there we are.
Okay.
I can imagine that.
I mean, it's a good song.
Yeah.
It's a good vibe.
Wow. And then you South Africans like, they're talking about my songs. What a feeling. Yeah. Wow. Okay, we got about 45 seconds. I mean, we got maybe we're going to wrap up. How do we encourage people to actively seek out people to just do good for them on a day-to-day basis?
I don't think it's about seeking out, Ashraf. I think it's about knowing that as you go through your day-to-day life, if you're aware that when you interact with people, you must just keep an open mind about how you can help them, if you can help them, and without, blustering into their lives. That's it. Just trying to be a person who's helpful. And then the next level is obviously looking for orphanages or places where you know that you can maybe spend a day of your month or every 3 months, because you cannot live in South Africa and only live for yourself.
Well, that's
true. It cannot be like that, because we're going to contribute to the many problems we have.
Listen, it's been great talking to you. Best wishes with your legal trials, let's put it that way, and maybe we'll see you back on TV sometime soon, or radio, whichever's easier.
Give me 5 to 10 years to be on TV for being an advocate, not for anything else.
Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for the team as well, putting it all together for this week. So we'll be back next week, Monday, as usual. So the team is Phineas Kamogelo, Keys, and then Vusani, as well as Temba Dlamini, all of us part of this team that makes up what is called now the National Pulse. Feel free to connect with us, SAFM and myself, on all the social media platforms throughout the weekend and next week as well. That big university election debate comes up after this. Let's get the news first. At 6 o'clock, here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, IEC argues Zuma case in the Con Court and Minister visits survivors of building collapse. Good evening. The IECs argue that the Constitution makes no distinction between courts that impose sentences. The legal counsel for the IEC tackled the Electoral Court's order that allowed former President Jacob Zuma to remain on the MK Party candidate list because his 15-month sentence couldn't be appealed as it was handed down by the Con Court. The section of the Constitution being contested further stipulates that no one may be regarded as having been sentenced until an appeal against the conviction or sentence has been determined or until the time for an appeal has expired. Advocate Tembekens Gugatobe, representing the IEC, says the Con Court was the final court of appeal.
Nothing in the Constitution says there is a distinction between sentences of lower courts and the sentence of this court. The proviso in its wording